Hi, I'm Andrew Rich, and if you're like me, you look at the state of modern wrestling discourse and think, wow, what a cesspool. That's why I'm here to tell you about Music of the Mat Remix. That's right, your favorite wrestling music podcast is back with a new format, where I bring on a guest and we play songs related to wrestling-themed topics. It could be a wrestling reference, a wrestling concept, a wrestling pun, things of that nature. Now you might be saying, Andrew, that is a very, very tenuous connection to pro wrestling on a wrestling podcast network. Is this just an excuse to hang out with your friends and talk about music and ignore the rest of the wrestling landscape? Yes. Yes, it is. So listen to Music of the Mat Remix on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network, available on Apple, Spotify, or your podcast player of choice.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
What do you guys want to talk about?
You are listening to the Flagship Podcast with your hosts, Joe Lanza.
What are we doing? This is Mickey Mouse bullshit. It's ridiculous. Doesn't make sense. Just get it done. How is this acceptable?
Rich Craig.
My whole life has been cheerleading. So much so, I got a scholarship at the University of Minnesota.
Recite the whole
Go,
thing.
Gopher! It's like, damn it.
And we are live on the Flagship Podcast. I am Rich. He is Joe. Joe, what's happening? How are you?
How are you?
I'm doing just grand, just dandy. Watched a lot of not great wrestling this week, and now I got to talk about some not great wrestling on this show. So, but I watched some good wrestling too. I found myself watching some good wrestling as well. I saw a match from 1983 in Portland, the old Portland territory, the Don Owen territory. That if you put that match on Dynamite this week, would be the best match on Dynamite this week. Guaranteed it. Guaranteed it. So that was fun to watch that for the Tour of the Territories project I'm doing on the Patreon. And then I watched some Deadlock, and there was some good stuff on Deadlock too. So the most recent Deadlock show. So I have watched some good wrestling, but my God, we're going to talk about a lot of bad wrestling today too, unfortunately.
A lot of bad wrestling, you think? I'm going to talk about a lot of bad wrestling?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm full of surprises. You don't know what I thought of these shows.
It's true. You maybe, maybe we're way more into Effie versus Mance Warner, 7 hours into the People versus GCW than I know. You love nothing more than a man being put through a door. You love when a door is set up, maybe on two folding chairs, and then they put a door on top of the folding chairs, and then a man is suplexed or pile-driven or powerbombed through said door. And then the crowd chants, holy shit, and you at home in the den. This is awesome. You love it. Oh my God, the 18th door that someone's been broken through today. I love it. Holy shit. Holy shit. You're right. That is you. So that gets the juices flowing. I know it.
Nothing gets me fired up and excited to watch a 6-hour wrestling show quite like Maki Ito crying in the first 5 minutes of said wrestling show. So... I was locked in and all about it.
Oh, of course. So, yeah, we of course will be talking about the World versus GCW at some point early in this show because we have to get it done as quick as possible. Because if we hold it out to the end, it's
may as well lead off with it. I mean, what else is there to talk about?
It's true. There's not a whole lot else going on this week. A light week in professional wrestling. We'll also talk about TNA's Genesis 2025 pay-per-view. A Saturday Night's Main Event is this week. People might not know that, but there is a Saturday Night's Main Event this very weekend, live on NBC and Peacock. We'll discuss that. I do want to actually do a Dragon Gate / WrestleMania Weekend discussion on this week's show because you did a Flagship Plus episode with our buddy Big Biss, Justin Bissonette, talked about WrestleMania Weekend a little bit with him on that Flagship Plus, and that got me thinking, hey, it's about time we talked about doing it. I think maybe we talked about doing it last week or 2 weeks ago or whatever, and we ran out of time. But I do want to actually have an earnest discussion about WrestleMania Weekend because you said something in that show that I wanted to kind of push back against and kind of argue against. So I think that'll be fun to discuss a little bit of WrestleMania Weekend at some point. Recent ratings updates as well. We have the Dynamite rating now too, so we can do that, as well as Raw and Netflix. Collision doing well against pretty tough competition. A great number for NXT. So really good numbers for the most part across the board for wrestling ratings, which we'll talk about here in a bit. Strong Hearts is disbanding. It is all over for the Shima-led Strong Hearts unit, but we'll talk a little bit about that as well. And that's kind of it. So we'll see if anything else pops up as we're doing the show, but it's a light week in professional wrestling. So I don't know. You just want to start with the fucking people versus GCW?
I mean, don't make me twist your arm. You don't sound like you're too excited to talk about the people versus GCW.
I don't know that I am. I don't know that I am. This show, and you can discuss your journey through this show. It took me, I'm not kidding, I don't understand, space-time continuum was the time that it took me to watch this show did not make sense. It just didn't make sense. I watched the show over 8 different sittings, hour blocks each one of those times, and somehow every time I would go back and sit down, it would be 2.5 hours left. I'd be like, no, it was 2.5 hours last time I watched. And that was yesterday, and I watched an hour yesterday, and then I would sit down today, and it's 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours, 2.5 hours. I couldn't ever get this video to end. I couldn't ever get this show to end. I watched it live on Sunday, too. I watched like 2 hours of it live on Sunday and then had to go do something else. So I said, you know what? I'll finish it tomorrow. So Monday morning, I wake up. 5 a.m. I decided to wake up before work, and I said, you know what? I should just get this people versus GCW out of the way now because I'm not going to want to go back and rewatch it later in the week. So I spent 2 hours on Monday morning watching it. Now, by the way, I'm up to 4 hours already at this point, right? I should be mostly done with this show. No. I'm nowhere close to done. I come home from work on Monday. The nurse wants to go work out, and I go, okay, fine. You know what? I'll go on the Stairmaster. I'll go do some cardio, and I'll put the people versus GCW on my phone, and I'll be able to knock out some of it there. I'm already going to be miserable on the Stairmaster. Might as well be miserable watching fucking Charles Mason in a fucking cage match. Why not? Let's watch the people versus GCW there. So I do an hour on the Stairmaster. I know for a fact I did an hour on the Stairmaster because I looked at the fucking thing, and it told me I did an hour of it. And the entire hour was spent watching the people versus GCW. So we're up to what now? 5 hours, right? I've watched the show for 5 hours at this point. Nowhere close. I go to the video on Tuesday afternoon. I have some time. So I said, you know what? I'm going to work out at work. We have a gym at my work. So I'm going to work out. I'm going to lift some weights. I'm going to have the people versus GCW on in the background. Joe, my lunch hour is an hour. I took an hour. I watched the people versus GCW for that entire hour. 6 hours, right? I should be done. I'm not done yet. How am I not done yet, Joe? At this point, Wednesday, I wake up again at 5 a.m. and I go, I have to finish this fucking thing because I'm not going to pack it in on a Thursday. So Wednesday, I wake up at 5 a.m. I watch a show for about an hour or so. 7 hours, I should be done. I'm not. Finally, Wednesday afternoon, I sit down. It's finally Effie versus Mance Warner. The fucking 1,200 goddamn doors get broken, and these guys wrestle to complete fucking silence. And then finally, once and for all, I finished the show at about 8 hours. 8 sittings, 8 hours. I don't fucking understand how the show took 8 hours. It wasn't an 8-hour show, was it? It was like 6, right?
Yes, over 6. Over 6.
How? How did it take me 8 hours then?
Well, maybe there were so many great moments that you rewound and watched a few of them, over again. Is that possible?
I don't know. I don't know. Every time I would open the video, I'd look at the bar and I'm like, no, there can't be more. How is there so much more?
Look, this isn't, and the thing about it is, I didn't finish watching it until a couple hours before we started the show, and I've been watching it since Monday. I think, look, a lot of people tried to blame the alley catch injury, and then, they had to wait around for the ambulance. But that was only like 20 minutes. I was surprised. People made it out like they were waiting around for an hour to get the show back going after that injury. But it really wasn't that. I don't think that's the reason the show was so long.
No,
I really don't.
Because you could reasonably expect Effie and Alley Catch was a well-built, big-time story in that company. You could buy that match was going to get 13 to 18 to 20 minutes. You know what I mean? Like somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
For sure. It wasn't going to be an 8-minute match. It wasn't going to be a 4 or 5 minute match either. There's no way.
No, it's the most important match on the show because it determined who was going to face Mance Warner in the main event. It was going to get plenty of time. I feel like the only delay was when they brought out the 6-man tag that followed. And then their initial plan was to have the heel stooge and not make contact, since they couldn't legally do that until the next ambulance arrived. And I was like, okay, this is an interesting way to stall for time. Instead of not having anyone in the ring and having the fans get restless, they're going to have the heels just go in there and cower off and refuse to touch the baby faces. But then they have the ring announcer, and they have MLJ get on the house mic, and he's like, fans, unfortunately, we're under a delay due to the New York State Athletic Commission. Why tell people that? I thought you were doing, like, pick one lane or the other. Like, you're either going to do this thing in the ring.
I think it lasted longer than they thought. I think that they thought it would be, okay, we just need 5 to 8 minutes of you stalling. And then when it got to 10, they were like, oh, fuck, we better tell the crowd because we can't keep, or these guys maybe ran out of banter. They ran out of whatever to do. Like, I think there's probably a way to do it for the 20 minutes they did it. But yeah, you're right. They panicked about, 8 to 10 minutes in and decided, fuck it. Tell the crowd what's going on. Tell the crowd what's going on.
Yeah, but it left everybody in the ring hanging because they're out there performing, and then the ring announcer blows it all up on them. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was very awkward.
Yes, I agree. And from that point forward, what one of the big issues I think the rest of the show had, and again, it wasn't the injury. The injury was obviously horrible, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. And obviously, it put a delay on the show because you're in New York and you need to get the ambulance there, and there has to be an ambulance on site or whatever. Which, by the way, was a very good thing for given the horrific injury that she did have, that there was an ambulance ready to take her right away. But what then the problem is okay, now moving forward, you were dealt a really bad hand. You had whatever amount of delay you possibly had. Let's assume that there was a half hour. There was a half-hour delay, and now their show's off by a half hour, right? You want to give them the benefit of the doubt for a half hour or 20 minutes if you want.
For the purposes of your point, let's go with a half hour.
Let's give them that the timing of the show is off by a half hour now. You know what? Yeah. You tell a couple people, guys, Alley Catch had the injury. We had to wait for the ambulance. We're going to need everyone to cut off a little bit of their entrance time, get to the ring a little quicker. You were supposed to wrestle 13 minutes. Can we cut it to 8? How about you, get everybody together and say, all right, look, everyone's going to have to condense their matches a little bit, get to the ring a little bit quicker. I know we have a 25-minute Atticus Kogar video that we want to show. You know what? We're not going to be able to show it. We'll put it up on YouTube. It'll be okay. Little stuff like that, little incremental stuff like that would have gotten the show back on track or gotten paced a little bit better. But the problem was we had this 20-minute whatever it was where there was a bit of downtime, which again, I agree with you. I don't think it caused that much of a delay. But then the rest of the show just moved around like a slog, which I don't think would have been any different had Alley Catch and Effie not had a 20-minute match. I think we would have still gotten a very long, mundane, boring 20-minute Atticus Kogar match. Everybody would have, or promo package or video, and then everybody would have done their same bull. It was such a bloated, overdone show that no matter what happened in the Alley Cat match, I'm positive this thing would have lasted till 1 a.m. and been late as fuck and boring as hell too. So that is the big issue. Is they booked way too many matches, didn't pace the show well, and then were dealt the bad hand with the Alley Catch thing and didn't adjust or didn't think about what's it going to be like for our paying audience that's sitting here for 7 hours over the course of the show, or the people at home trying to watch this thing until 2 a.m. New York time or whatever the hell it was.
I think you're right. I don't think they changed anything, and they probably should have. But I genuinely don't think the show is that much longer than it would have been. It was a little over 6 hours, and that counts the pre-show. But I feel like it may have been 5 hours and 45 minutes otherwise. I really don't think it appreciably changed the length. They just had too much shit booked on the show. Here's the bottom line. This just isn't a professional operation. It doesn't pretend to be, but it's not a professional operation. All that mattered was cramming everybody onto the show and being able to say, we fucking did it. I'm not sure what they did, right? I'm not sure what that is that they think they did.
But they did it. But they did it.
Right. We fucking did it. The whole point of this show was just to, stick our chest out. We ran Hammerstein again. We showed everybody. Again, I don't know what they're showing people. And making sure that they cram everyone onto the show because this is their big moment every 3 years or so. They had this show in 2021 or 2022, whatever year it was, and they did another one. And, you had Brett come out and give his little rah-rah speech. Not exactly as inspiring as Paul Heyman, but, he came out.
Not exactly Paulie dangerously out there, no.
Gave his little rah-rah speech and said, we got more people here tonight than anybody's had in the last 30 days. I think it was important for them because they have all these issues with AEW, some public, some not. And they were really annoyed that AEW chose to run the building a few weeks before, which is the dumbest thing in the world. It's a bunch of nonsense, and they're 100% wrong on it. I mean, how many promotions during the peak of, post ECW, how many indie promotions in Philly were running the ECW arena?
Oh God, every weekend.
I mean, every weekend. And nobody complained that, how many promotions run Cork Hall? I mean, it's just the silliest.
If you're a good promotion, here's the thing. If you're a good promotion, the best thing ever is other wrestling fans going to that building, because you know what you do? You bring a guy, you bring a street team, and you hand out flyers.
And that's what they did.
Right.
And I don't have any doubt that they had more people in the building because AEW ran that triple shot a month earlier. They would have had less people at their show, because the number of people who grabbed those flyers outside of those AEW shows who bought tickets to this show is obviously not zero, Rich. It's obviously not zero. You had a chance to do direct marketing to wrestling fans who, A, might not even know you existed, B, are coming out of a show and maybe are coming off of a high and want to see some more wrestling, and say, oh, okay, these guys, well, let's come back. They're with their friends. Let's all come back next month. C, didn't know you exist. D, knew you existed but didn't know you were running the building. They undoubtedly sold more tickets because AEW ran. And I really think they came off horribly. When Effie pulled his little, whiny fit, a month ago or whatever it was. And again, when Brett brought it up again, but look, their whole thing is leveraging us against the world. It's literally their gimmick, right? So if that's what motivates them, that's fine. They had 1,761 people in the building. There's a lot, there's a lot of circumstantial evidence that there was a lot of comps. They allege that there's fans that say they were handed tickets outside of the ECW shows.
There's a photo of him, with an envelope outside of Hammerstein giving people envelopes or whatever. So yeah, whatever.
Right. And, and then there's that whole thing where that block of tickets disappeared. And then the next day Cardona gave away a bunch of tickets, like on his podcast or whatever. Look, do I think they gave away some tickets? I do. Do I care? Do I think it's a big
wrestling.
deal?
Yeah, who cares?
No, I think they just wanted to ensure that they put more people in the building than AEW did. For whatever reason, that's important to them.
Right.
Right. AEW had 1,491 people in the building 3 days in a row. They sold out their setup. More production kills because it was TV and the ROH pay-per-view. And their setup was 1,491. They sold it out all 3 days. These people had 1,761 in the building. Do I think they sold more tickets than AEW? Probably not, but maybe they did. But who cares? It's like they seem to care more than anybody else does about that. Last time. Now, so there's two ways to view that. Is this a success because they put more people, quote unquote, in the building than AEW did? Or is it not a success because they had over 2,000 people in the building the first time they ran the place? I mean, that's up for you to decide, right? The first show, as we know, was horrible. Beyond description. Horrible. I thought this show was better than the last show. I don't know where you stand on that.
Yeah, it was better than the first one. I don't think it wasn't good, but it was better than the first one.
How about it wasn't as bad as the first one?
That's a perfect. Yes,
are you more comfortable with that?
I am much more comfortable saying it that way. Yes, it was not bad as the first one.
Yeah, and we'll get into all that. I mean, we don't have a lot of topics tonight, so we got plenty of time. We'll get into all that. But my point here is they had a horrendous show the first time around, universally agreed upon one of the worst, quote unquote, major pro wrestling shows in modern wrestling history, to the point that even they acknowledged that. And the whole theme of this show was our first show fucking sucked. And now we're going to show you that this one isn't going to suck. The People versus GCW. Okay, you didn't like that one? Well, we're going to show you, like Stevie Richards' old gimmick. I'll show you, you'll see. That was like the theme of this fucking GCW show. But, they had 300 less people in the building, probably way less paid. If we acknowledge that, yes, there was probably some comps. Okay? Which, again, I'm not going to harp on. I don't care. Get people in there. And look, as I said, this isn't a professional operation, and they don't pretend to be. You know, if anyone from there is listening to this, they're nodding. They're going, yeah, we're not. You know, and I'm not knocking them for that. They have their own vibe. And Rich, anyway, that's why I think I don't think they gave a shit how long the show was going to be. They don't care about the things that you just talked about.
Right.
You know, how long do the people have to sit there? How long do people who paid for this on Triller plus Dot on Fight or whatever the fuck have to sit well into the night till 2 a.m. on the East Coast to watch this thing? They're not concerned with that. They're concerned with just, this is our moment. This is us running this building. It's a big deal to us. Yes, we're going to book every fucking person that it's going to mean something to. That's going to be the biggest crowd they're going to work in maybe in their career if they weren't on the last one. You know, and this historic, and we're going to cram them all in and we're going to do our show. And no, just because there was a delay and someone got hurt, we're not going to shorten things. We're playing every goddamn video that we plan to play.
Right. Everybody that wants the match will have as much time as they want. We're not going to tell anybody. Exactly. If somebody wanted to have a 13-minute match, they're allowed to have a 13-minute match. We're not going to have any tough conversations with anybody. We're not going to cut anyone's time. We're not going to cut a match. We're not going to cut a promo. We're not going to cut someone doing their elaborate entrance where their song plays the whole way through. No, we're not doing any of that. Everyone's getting everything that they were promised before the injury happened.
Yep. And was the crowd dead by the end of the show? Yes. Was the crowd tired by the end of the show? Yes. Were people leaving? I didn't notice that. Were people? Look, Rich, I've been to Game Changer shows where by the end of the show, I'm like, come on. I want to win. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Those Joey Janela spring break shows.
Oh, that one. Again, my God. The great Sasuke one that ended Louisiana. At like 3:45 a.m. or whatever.
I think that was Louisiana. And the thing about that one is my hotel room was in the same venue. And I was like, we got to end this shit. And I only had to walk 200 yards to my room. Right. And everybody else had to go call Ubers, drive back across town. You know, that show was stupid long. And that, you know, there's no attempt to be professional with Game Changer. They are what they are. They are cosplay ECW without any of the charm, any of the talent, any of the moments, and any of the impact. That's what this is. Otherwise, it's exactly the same.
Right, other than that, GCF&W, am I right?
Yeah, I mean, you know, but I will give them this. You know, I'll say some positives because the review obviously is mostly going to be negative.
Yeah.
I thought it was better than the last show. I really did. And I thought if they would have found a way to condense the time and pace it better and gave a shit about any sense of professionalism of putting on a show, it may have even been a good show. But you can't call it a good show with how long it was and some of the horrible shit that was on it that we'll get into. But I thought it was better than the last show. That's about all I got in terms of positives. And I guess I
was waiting for what else. I thought there was a list, but
yeah. I mean, I'm trying.
That was
I'm trying to come. I mean, you know,
they serve their fans well. The GCW hardcores are served.
Those people
well.
seem pleased with it. And the other, I'll give them. Okay, one more thing. We stopped paying attention to this promotion after the last Hammerstein show. Before that, we were paying attention, and it was part of the rotation of topics here. And during the pandemic, we watched they were one of the promotions that didn't shut down. Remember the 24-hour show?
Of course.
And
yep.
The show. Yeah. And, you know, so we were following GCW then. And, you know, after the last Hammerstein show, we said, you know what, this place is just not for us. We're not covering it anymore. And really, the only time that either one of us watch or cover Game Changer is when WrestleMania Weekend rolls around, right? We'll watch all the shows then and talk about them.
Yeah.
So as someone who hasn't followed the company in whatever it is, 2-3 years, however, whenever that last show was, I think it was 3 years ago. I will say that one of my primary complaints and why I ditched the company to begin with is because they made no effort to book anything. Every show was just a random collection of matches and people going through doors and just completely devoid of any real storylines. And yeah, I'm not saying I need the bloodline, obviously, but Rich, I need something more than just people going through doors all the time. You know, give me something. People chasing titles, feuds, something. Can I just have anything? And back then, Game Changer had very little of that. A little bit at the top of the card, and that was about it. I will say that watching this show and what those endless videos did do is it showed me that all of these matches did have stories coming in.
Yes.
And that was a gigantic change from the last time that I have followed this promotion. Doesn't mean I'm going to be locked in next weekend when they're in France, because yes, they're really going to be in France.
This weekend. I think it's like literally like in
this weekend.
Like a couple days or tomorrow they're in France.
They're like there already. Yeah. No, of course. I'm not going to follow this promo. I'll see you again WrestleMania weekend is basically what I'm saying. This is not a promotion for me. But I will say that's one other positive. I think that since the last time I was paying any attention to them, they have clearly made more of an effort to build storylines, build feuds, pay more attention to the titles and who's challenging and all of those sorts of things. So it seems like a more cohesively booked promotion than it's ever been in my time paying attention to it. So those are my positives.
All right. Should we get into the negatives?
I mean,
let's do it.
You're chomping at the bit.
No. I mean, we got to do this. So let's just get it. So we had 2 matches on the pre-show. The pre-show was available for free to watch on YouTube, so I think that is still available if you want to go onto YouTube and watch it. I think on Triller you might be able to watch it for free as well. But we started, Joe, you're not going to believe this, with a scramble match. Yes, a scramble match. One called Manders, Blake Christian, Fuego del Sol, Marcus Mathers, Mr. Danger, and Rich Swann.
You know what was funny about the pre-show? Because then they had like a Royal Rumble style match.
I'm going to list every single name that was in the Royal Rumble in a minute here. So,
well, it started with like 20 guys, and then they did like staggered entrances. It was weird, right? There was like already like 20 guys in the ring. Or were they doing staggered entrances with those guys while we were away watching videos? See, I don't know I think they just put like Rob Shit and
Teriyaki and Rob Shit were like, I think they all just started in the ring, but I honestly I don't know.
And then like the bigger names got their own entrances. I think that's how they did. But my point here is with the Scramble and the Rumble, what was weird to me was I thought like all the best workers were on the pre-show.
There was a lot of good. That match that I just listed right there. One called Manders, Blake Christian, Fuego del Sol, Marcus Mathers, Mr. Danger, and Rich Swann. Like that is 5 of the best workers on the entire show. 5 of the best
workers on the show. And this Mr. Danger is an exciting new flyer.
Yes.
I will say that.
I just didn't want to put him on that pedestal just yet, but he is an exciting flyer. He is an exciting flyer.
You can't, but you can't put him on the level of those other guys. But he is super athletic and someone who is worth keeping an eye on.
He's an AR Fox guy, I think. He's an AR Fox trainee, so definitely keep an eye on him, because if there's one guy that can teach him to be crazy and do good flippy doos, it's going to be AR Fox for sure.
Yeah, so, I mean, right there were some of the best wrestlers on the show. And then even in the Rumble, you know, you had like some bigger name indie guys and you know, you had Titus Alexander, I think, and you had Starboy Charlie.
Shane Mercer was in there too, yeah.
And I'm watching this pre-show, and I'm like, and then I'm looking at the lineup for the show, and I'm like, fuck. All the good workers are on the pre-show. But again, I don't follow GCW. You know what I mean? So everything they had on the main show was their storyline stuff that you know, they're not doing this show for me. They're doing this show for their fan base and the stories they've been telling for the last year or whatever it is. So I get it. But just as somebody parachuting in, man, I would have taken Shane Mercer versus Blake Christian or something over the slop some of the slop they gave me on the main show. So, you know, anyway, that was my main thought on the pre-show, was all the good wrestlers that's where they were. The Scramble match was a Scramble match. I don't know. It was probably one of the better matches overall on the show.
I would say it's probably my second favorite match on the entire show.
I didn't think it was anything special, though.
No. I have a natural inclination to not enjoy Scramble matches because I've just seen so many of them and I'm so bored of them. But this one was the best, you know, as good as a Scramble match can be in 2025 when you've seen, you know, 10,000 of them in your lifetime.
Yeah. You know, these Scramble matches, it all depends who's in them and you know, how hard they want to work. And, yeah, this was fine. And then the Rumble, was just a bunch of silliness. I mean, I don't think that I've laid eyes on Too Tough Tony in 20 years.
Too Tough Tony, yeah, with Violent J. He's a part of Juggalo Champion Shit Wrestling, I suppose, with old Violent J.
Yeah, which apparently they're doing a whole storyline with Juggalo Championship Wrestling. If there were two promotions I ever wanted to see, mix it up, Rich Craich. It's Game Changer and Juggalo Championship Wrestling. I can't wait for that.
I think we got an email from somebody at Juggalo Champion Shit Wrestling that said if we want to interview Violent J, we can. So
I don't think it's champion shit anymore. I think it's
they've legitimized.
I think it's,
oh, come on, really?
They've gone mainstream. Rich Craich. They're championship.
Come on,
no more champion shit.
Bullshit. All right. Fuck. All right.
Yeah, so,
let me list all the names in this Rumble match for you real quick, and then you can
all
give
the
me
stars.
All the stars were
stars.
here. So PCO won the match, and we'll get to him in a moment here. So then there was Too Tough Tony, Ariel Van Gogh, the former Shinron, right? Ariel Van Gogh was the former Shinron in what was his name in Chikara?
I don't know who the fuck that is.
That's who it is. Yeah, I forget his name.
I'm supposed to know who Ariel Van Gogh is? I'm supposed to know who that is?
Yeah, come on. Yeah.
You could be making that up right now, and I'd be like, sure.
I'm sure
Ariel
that's
Van
it, yeah.
Gogh was in it. Yeah.
Austin Luke, Bam Sullivan, Big Vin. That's 911's son, right? Big Vin.
Yeah. Probably his ring.
True, right?
Doesn't he provide the ring? I thought it was the ring.
Yes, he did. Yes. Bobby Flacco, Brooke Havoc, CPA, Crowbar. Yes, that Crowbar. Drew Blood, Dylan McKay, Facade, JP Grayson, Hallowicked, Jay Lucas, Jeffrey John, Mark Angel, Rob Shit, Sam Stackhouse, Shane Mercer, Sleepy Ed, Starboy Charlie, Terry Yaki, Titus Alexander, Tommy Grayson, and Zeta Steel.
So, I don't know. Again, was it necessary to book all these people? I'm assuming they got paid. I'm assuming they got paid.
You think Sleepy Ed? How much money do you think Sleepy Ed got for the shot?
Okay, but even if they got $25 a piece, add it up. I mean, there's a lot of fucking, you didn't have to book all this. What's the point of booking all of this? You know what I mean?
I guess it's just doing a solid to everybody you've ever encountered.
You just want to cram everybody on it. That's the thing. How many people are in this? 20? 25?
I think it was 20, but don't make me count. I think it was 20.
If you paid these people $25 American dollars each, that's $500. That's that's a lot of money when you're drawing 1,700 people and probably 1,200 are paid. That's a lot of money. I don't know. I don't.
There was 27 people in this Rumble. Of course, there was 27.
27 people in this fucking match. Okay. So again, even if you paid them $20 each, that's $540, Rich Craich. And I'm sure they all made more than $20.
And here's the best part. So I just mentioned all those names. Sean Cedar, who I know was watching live, said Hallowicked was in that match.
Yeah, I don't remember him.
But this is what we're saying. Who knows? Who knows who was there? Because it was just a pile of people for most of the time. So even if you paid however many dollars we're assuming were paid, there were people in the ring that you don't even know were in the ring. So it's not like
yeah. You didn't need these people. Right. This is why I can never promote indie wrestling, because I would never do shit like this. It's such a waste of money.
Oh, I'd have the Paul Levesque. I'd be on the Paul Levesque buckets train for sure. I'd be like, no, we have 5 matches and I'm booking 10 guys.
4 singles matches, no managers.
Right,
Let's
no
go.
Managers, no tag teams. I want singles guys, and I everybody. Yeah, 4 singles matches. We're in and out in 2 hours. An hour and a half.
Yeah, I mean, so, but then it was all to set up the PCO thing after the match, where he smashed the TNA digital media fucking the title they do on their YouTube,
the TNA
or whatever.
digital media title, yeah.
Which they were hot about it. They claim it was a replica, not the actual title. I think as of the latest, Game Changers claiming that they had no idea that he was going to do this.
Yeah.
Which I find extremely dubious for 1,000 different reasons.
How did he acquire a mallet? Did he just bring his own mallet?
Right.
Is that
yeah?
Did he get that through TSA? Did he get it through customs? I imagine PCO is probably coming from the Warren Hayes region. So did he get that through customs? How did he get the mallet through? Or if PCO gets to the back and says, "Hey, can I have a mallet?" Don't you ask him, "What do you need the mallet for?" No reason. Okay.
Okay, here. We happen to have one, sir. Here, have this mallet. The ring announcer is just going, no, PCO, that's enough. No,
Yeah, right.
no, Mr. PCO. No, like, the announcers, and then
You would cut that. You would cut it immediately, and someone would run in the ring and stop it. Or it was such a fucking work, and it's so obvious it was
cut
work.
it. They did cut it.
But they cut it like right, after he smashed it a couple
6
times.
minutes into it.
Yeah, and then MLJ's like, "Oh, we got it," and then they cut it. So yeah, it kind of.
6 minutes into the segment when they're
zooming in on the title,
cameraman zooming in on the belt being smashed. Because PCO obviously did not have a great split with TNA. You had Mike Gilbert on Flagship Plus to talk about that a little bit, and then Mike Johnson did a little reporting that night on that as well. So he was upset with the company, and I don't buy for 1 second that game change. That's just plausible deniability for them, so they don't get heat with TNA. Is probably what that is. But so and then they quote unquote cut the feed to make it look like a shoot and all that. And I guess it was like technically it was a shoot. Like PCO was. But my point is, was Game Changer aware that he was going to do that? Yeah, I mean, come on, let's be real.
They were.
But and that was 90 minutes, by the way.
Yes. So we're already 90 minutes in. I checked in, and they were still just there was like two dudes just like talking on the ramp as people were filtering into the building. So I got in pretty early. So I did probably have a half an hour of extra that I kind of watched in the background. So that probably added to my time watching the People versus GCW. So then we started on the actual pay-per-view itself. Now, this was not a traditional pay-per-view like the last one was. The last one, the first one, I should say, the World on GCW or whatever, was on traditional pay-per-view. This one was just a Triller TV Plus. So if you were a Triller TV Plus powered by Fight member, you're able to watch the People versus GCW. So we start off with...
Probably tells you how the last one did.
Probably. Yeah, probably a pretty good indication that it was probably not.
I mean, I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm just saying that probably is an indicator of how the last one did.
So we start off in earnest on the show with the Extreme title and the Ultraviolent title being unified in a DLC match. Joe, do you get it? It's not tables. It's doors, ladders, and chairs. So Matt Tremont, Maki Ito, Brandon Kirk, Cyclope, not that Cyclope, Dr. Redacted, Drew Parker, John Wayne Murdoch, Matthew Justice, and Rina Yamashita.
Yeah, I mean, do you want me to go first, or would you like to go first?
Why don't you go first? You have very strong thoughts about this match, so go for it.
This is undoubtedly a worst match of the year contender by year's end. This was a gigantic pile of absolute shit. I hated every second of this. There was nothing good or positively redeeming about this match. This was nothing but, now, first of all, I'm out on ladder matches anyway, so I'm already watching with my arms folded and my teeth gritted. Look, it's New York, so there was a lot of restrictions on what they could do in terms of the ultraviolence. They couldn't use a lot of their usual gimmicks, right?
Right. No light tubes, no blood, no barbed wire, nothing. Yeah, you pretty much were stuck with doors, ladders, and chairs.
Yeah. The problem is, we've seen a million of these TLC style matches and ladder matches or whatnot in bigger promotions. And, we've seen it all. They're not impressive anymore. They're fine. You get a couple cool stunts. The difference is in those promotions, those are real and more skilled professionals doing these things. And in this, it's indie wrestlers of varying degrees of skill and experience. And it just wasn't good. This was the stereotype of this kind of match, where it was just a series of stunts performed awkwardly and slowly, one after another, with no rhyme or reason and not even any token attempts to have a match. This wasn't a match. This was two people taking turns doing a stunt. Then they would clear the ring, and then two more people would come into the ring and do their little stunt, and then rinse, repeat. And it was all very awkwardly done, and there was one spot where I think it was, I want to say it was Brandon Kirk and Drew Parker, and he gave him like some kind of pile driver variant through a ladder, and it looked good and everything. And then Drew Parker, immediately pops up so he can roll out of the ring so that the next two people can get in and do their big stunt, which totally took away. Now, again, it's Game Changer, and they don't care, and their fans don't care. But I'm watching it, and I'm reviewing it, and I do care. It sucked. Even the shit that looked good, it was just, it's just a bunch of garbage. It's these kinds of matches. It's above the heads of a lot of people that were in it. That's just, I know nobody wants to, so a lot of people aren't going to want to hear that, but, and I feel bad for Brandon Kirk, who's been a nice little indie wrestler for a long time. And, this was his final match. And look, I guess I shouldn't, if he wanted this to be his final match, I get it. But I would think that someone like that would want to go out against an opponent that he likes in a singles match and but maybe
or have one of his kind of
Hammerstein
matches, kind of have one because Brandon Kirk is obviously a deathmatch guy or whatever, and I don't want to do that, but I could see if your career has been doing death matches and bleeding and all that sort of stuff, that you'd probably want to go out having one of those matches, have like your last hurrah, go out there and just it seemed very odd that his feels unfitting that his final match. Now for the record,
just go out like this. He wasn't even like one of the stories of the match.
No, he was like the fifth most important guy in the entire match. And for the record, like 3 other guys in this match have retired like in the last couple of years. So I'm sure Brandon Kirk will be back as well. Including the guy who won the match, who also just retired a couple of years ago. So
how many times has Matt Tremont? Didn't he retire 3 years ago? Matt
Tremont? 2 or 3 years ago he retired and was gone for I think 6 months, maybe a year, and then he's back. And then Drew Parker retired, and then he came back like 6 months later. So several men have retired in this match. So
and I mean, Matt Tremont's been wrestling for what, 20 years or whatever it is, and I don't think I've ever wanted to watch him wrestle ever. He does absolutely nothing for me. I mean, and I definitely don't want to watch him 3 years after he retired. I mean, and it comes down to him and John Wayne Murdoch, two wrestlers. If these guys wrestled each other across the street, I wouldn't bother. I mean, you want to talk about shutting the blinds if they were wrestling in your backyard. I mean, absolutely, it's just a bunch of garbage. Maki Ito doing her crying routine 30 seconds into the match. And then she did one high cross body off the ladders to the floor, and you never saw her again.
That was it for her. That was it for Maki. Yep.
Smartest person in the match. She did one extremely safe bump off the ladder because they had 19 people catching a 90-pound woman. And then she just sold for the last 8 minutes. So she just stayed on the floor. So everybody else got in there and they did their one spot that they planned in the back. And this was just a giant pile of shit. Okay, one stunt after another, awkwardly performed, no rhyme or reason. Just the total antithesis of what I want to see in pro wrestling. I have no fucking use for it, and I will remember it come end of year. I can't imagine there's going to be many matches this year that I see worse than this one. Total waste of everybody's time.
Yeah, and like you said, it was like a stunt show in the sense that like everybody was just waiting around for someone to do the next stunt. There was never an actual earnest attempt. And now we're long past the point in 2025 where people are making earnest attempts at grabbing titles in ladder matches. We know it's all about the stunt show and all that sort of stuff. We'll talk about another gimmick match that's just been completely bastardized and destroyed by the modern wrestling world at this point. But this one in particular was like, referees holding ladders all the time, and they guys do that. That is,
I don't even mind that.
That's common practice, but they made it so fucking obvious every single time that they were holding it that it was a little too much for me. It was a little too much because these people are getting up on top of the ladders, not grabbing the titles, and a referee's holding it so they can go jump off of it or whatever. It's just like, just have a little bit of thought of kayfabe, just a little. That's all I'm asking, just a little bit. Can we try to pretend that this thing's a simulated sport at some point? A little.
Well,
that's all I'm asking.
It's game changer wrestling.
Just a little. Yeah, right. I know that's on me for expecting more than
John Wayne Murdoch cannot trade.
Right. When you put it that way, yes. Yeah.
It looks like two chubby yarders at the top of the ladder, like fighting for the belt. I mean, it's just garbage.
There was a cage match review from someone. I don't know. I can't tell if it was like a Cornette adjacent person or some guy that just like stumbled upon the show or whatever. But he's just like, yeah, this match is really weird. Some weird fat redneck told Maki, this Japanese girl, that he didn't want her to be here. Then she started crying, and then they just jumped off of stuff. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of it. That's
pretty much sums it up.
It's like some shirtless redneck yelled at the Japanese woman, and then he jumped off of ladders. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of it.
And then the other Japanese deathmatch woman, like again, she couldn't do any of her gimmicks.
Yeah,
it's like at that point, why book these people? You know what I mean? Like if you were going to have an
New
ultra,
York? I mean, why book New York? It's also a terrible place for them to run there.
Because you have to run Hammerstein to say we fucking did it.
We did it.
You know, so
yeah, right.
Because
ECW at one point ran Hammerstein, so you must follow in the footsteps of ECW. So
I guess to them, it means something to them. So that's why. That's your answer. But it's like, see, I'm thinking. You can't think logically, because logically I would say, all right, we're going to run Hammerstein. I'm not booking Rina Yamashita and Drew Parker and fucking Matt Tremont because they can't do their ultra-violent shit. So what's the point of booking them? I'm just wasting money. But I don't think that matters to them. Like, no. I think they're perfectly content not making any money or breaking even or making $1,000. I think it doesn't matter. I just don't think it makes a difference. So, it's silly even approaching it from that standpoint.
So the next match was, and this is the first of our many, 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 many long videos before all these matches. Now, I know that that's a common practice in some wrestling companies is before a big match, we show a big long video or whatever, but someone's got to tell them you need these videos to be a little shorter. They do not need to be 15 minutes long, detailing every beat of every single story that has happened in this entire feud. Like maybe one time, maybe for your main event, you could do that if you really, really want to condense these things a little bit, because this was also why the show got really, really long, because they cut to these videos, and these videos, which were well done. They were well done videos, but they were fucking long as hell. So we get this Effie Alley Catch one, plays forever. They come out. Matches got a lot of heat. I'll give it that. It had a lot of heat. It was very much anticipated by that fan base. I thought the video and the story was pretty cool too, with Alley Catch turning on Effie and, hey, where were you when I was down, and all that sort of stuff. So I think they told a very good story here, and I was actually genuinely excited about this match. I can't believe I couldn't believe that I was excited about an Alley Catch Effie match, but that video got me into it a little bit. So hey, fuck me for saying, hey, don't show that long video, because here I am sitting at home going, like, here we go, Effie and Alley Catch. I'm kind of interested in what this is going to be. And then, of course, as everybody probably knows at this point, about 4 minutes or so into the match, Alley Catch does a suicide dive to the outside and breaks her leg in a very, very, very gross way, which I saw it immediately. Unfortunately, my brain has been trained, I think, because of watching so much sports and being there for, Kevin Ware and seeing that one live and watching the Joe Theismann, replay so many times, that I can spot it right away. And I know, like, when the one, when was it Darius Martin? I forget if it was Dante or Darius who had it on the ROH show. Like, unfortunately, I can sense it and see it happening, like, immediately. And I saw her land and I went, oh, fuck, that thing is jacked up. And they didn't get the camera off of it right away because they, didn't know until very quickly somebody made it obvious. Hey, whoa, get off the camera off her. And she kind of put it back in place too. But her leg was fucked, going the wrong direction. And she laid on the outside for a little bit. And eventually they called the match. Referee's decision, Effie got the win, and a couple other people came down to help her, get her on a gurney, get her out of there, and get her in an ambulance, which thankfully is there because you're in New York, and when you run New York, you have to have an ambulance on site. So she was able to get into the hospital, and looks like she's gotten surgery, and she's on the road to recovery right now, raised a bunch of money as well. Steph DeLander, I think, set up a GoFundMe for her, but pretty awful injury there. Very, very broken leg for Alley Catch. And it just sucks because that was a big, big spot for her and a big match for her. And 4 minutes in, it's just over, and now her leg's broken.
Why are fucking legs pointing in the opposite direction,
yeah.
Rich? Of course, it was grotesque, and she was clearly shocked by it. And then she was, grabbing, once she saw her leg pointing the wrong way, like a broken compass, she's grabbing onto the guardrail and just screaming. I mean, it was eerie. It was just, and then everyone immediately broke kayfabe. They got her out of there. And we talked about already how that kind of delayed the show a bit. Now, I don't know if this derailed their plans or not. I don't know if Effie would have won anyway. I don't know if Mance Warner would have come down and put Effie through that table anyway.
So I asked some people that are more aware of GCW booking and follow it, and they all told me they thought Effie was going to win that match no matter what. That no matter what the plan was, probably going to be that Effie wins the match. So they probably, the Mance putting him through the table and Effie winning probably was exactly what was supposed to happen, but obviously just done in a different manner than what was planned.
Right. So I'm thinking, all right, maybe they're sending Mance out here to keep people occupied while they deal with this medical emergency. But yeah, it's entirely possible that he was going to attack him post match either way. So maybe they got to maybe Effie was planned to win this match, win the title all along, get attacked after. Maybe it all worked out with the exception of the heinous injury. So, and then, we talked about how their different attempts to stall for time for the 6-man, which was Amazing Red, Grim Reaper, and Homicide over the heel group with Kerry Morton, Tony Deppen, and Griffin McCoy, who their gimmick is that, okay, we're real wrestlers in this shitty promotion. Like and that makes them heels.
Right.
Which is great. That makes them the heels because when
they're standing outside on the other side of the ring from the Grim Reaper, it is kind of funny.
Right.
Yeah, the real effing pros. We are real professional wrestlers. Boo!
Right. Yeah.
Boo!
So when they announced that there'd be the delay, they were out there ad-libbing the best they could. They basically took off, and Deppen grabbed the mic and he's like, "We're not waiting around. If the match isn't happening now, we're out of here. Fuck these fans, you know." But eventually, they got the second ambulance there or whatever, and they had the match, and it was just a totally nothing match. So, I have no thoughts on this. It was just a nothing match.
Nah, there was nothing there. Yeah, Grim Reaper lit up. I believe that is against the law in New York. I do not believe you were allowed to smoke indoors in New York, but Grim Reaper did not care. Edgy. Grim Reaper did not care. He was too busy with the Reafer. Grim Reaper. I love that it's 2025.
Love
I'm
the
still
Grim
watching,
Reaper.
still watching the Grim Reaper. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Yeah. But
Julius Smokes with them, too.
Yeah, and Julius Smokes tried to stall for time, too, and he did pretty good. He did a pretty good job. Yeah.
Yes, he did. They all were doing a good job, but then the promotion, ruined the promotion shouldn't have said anything.
It would have been actually, I bet these guys would love the challenge. I bet these guys thought it would be pretty fun. Hey, you know what? Cool. Someone said, hey, we need 5 more minutes. And I bet Julius Smokes would have said, all right, I got an idea here, guys. Here's what we do. You know, like, you tell me Julius Smokes, Amazing Red, Homicide, Kerry Morton. These guys couldn't, they could waste time. Are you kidding me? Come on. And waste 5 more minutes. But yeah, they blew the spot up a little bit there. But, and then after the match, they presented Amazing Red with the plaque that he is going to be the first entrant into the Independent Wrestling Hall of Fame this year at WrestleMania Weekend.
Isn't there like 19 independent wrestling? What do you mean the first entrant?
Well, no. This is like the new one that they did. No, he's the first of this year's class.
Oh, okay, all right. I thought they gave it to Homicide. They gave it to Red?
No, Homicide handed the plaque to Amazing Red.
All right. Well, you can see how closely I was paying
Homicide
attention.
is already, I believe Homicide, I hate that I already know a lot about this, but I believe Homicide is already in the Game Changer Wrestling's Independent Wrestling Hall of Fame, which, by the way, I'm sorry. I don't really.
Is that the same Hall of Fame?
Yes.
Does he make that sound when he gets inducted? When he gets inducted?
Oh, he got inducted in 2002. I'm looking at it right now. The inaugural class was Dave Prazak.
Game Changer didn't exist in 2002.
No, 2022. 2022. Sorry. The inaugural class in 2022 was Dave Prazak, Jerry Lynn, Homicide, Lufisto, Ruckus, and Tracy Smothers.
I remember that. I do remember that.
The 2023 class was Cheerleader Melissa, Christopher Daniels, Excalibur, Jimmy Jacobs, Michael Modest, and Paul London. And then 2024 was Trent Acid, Kevin Whackpacker Hogan, Steve Carino, Sabu, Mercedes Martinez, Eddie Gilbert, and the Briscoes. All
right. Well, yeah, you know, if it's a nice night for these people and everything, you know, it's fine. Okay. So Amazing Red this year.
Yep. So far. Many more to come. Next up was the GCW Tag Team title match. Violence is Forever, longtime champions in this company, against the Garbage Daddies of Alex Price and Cole Radrick. Now, this is the match. The intro video for this was like 8 minutes long, and this is where I'm like, all right, guys, I'm sorry. We get it. Violence is Forever, defending the titles against the Garbage Daddies. We don't need the long video. I'm sorry. This is where you cut it, and you make this show a little bit tighter. And the video told us not. The video was essentially Dom and Kevin Koo have had the titles for a while, and Alex Price and Cole Radrick want the titles. We got that. You know what I mean? Like, we don't need a video to tell us that. And this was, to me, the best match on the entire show. It wasn't that good, but it was the best match on the entire show because it was at least 4 legit wrestlers going out there and having a legit wrestling match, and for the most part was well worked. And yeah, I don't have much bad to say about this, and I guess that de facto makes it the best match on the entire show because I thought it was actually like, for a minute, I thought I was watching a real professional wrestling show. So that made me go, hey, well, not bad. These guys are actually kind of good at doing what they do. So to me, this is the best match on the entire show. But trust me, that is not me putting this match over, telling you have to absolutely watch it. Just on the rest of the shit show, this was one of the better worked matches, if not the best worked match of the entire show.
The finish of this match pissed me the fuck off. So they went out there and wrestled a perfectly fine match. I can't stand Cole Radrick. I have to just, full disclosure, he might be one of my least favorite wrestlers to watch.
Even with his new body? What do you think about the new body? Got himself nice and tight.
New body?
Yeah, he used to be all chubby and stuff. Yeah, he's nice and tight these days.
I still doesn't look like a pro wrestler to me.
Wow.
But look is still a major problem for that guy. He makes these dumb faces all the time. The guy just drives me nuts. Alec Price can do some wildly athletic things. He gets way up there on those cutters and everything, but he's got a $10 look. But he's an excellent athlete and someone I don't mind watching. And the match was fine until the finish. I think they Violence is Forever. They hit their finish on Alec Price, I think, and then Guarini picks up Cole Radrick and gives him a package pile driver. And it's like those two guys are dead. And then I'm not exaggerating and no hyperbole. Quite literally less than 10 seconds later, they both popped up to their feet and made the comeback and hit their finish and won the match. And it's like, look, I'm not that guy. Rich, I'm not that guy.
No.
Okay. I'm not writing Segunda Cater reviews. I'm not that guy, but this was fucking egregious.
But in this case, yeah.
This was just so fucking stupid. Like they killed both guys with these, and then it just almost like the ref told them they were out of time. I don't know what was happening here, but they just rushed through it. They just popped right up and rushed through it. And I just stood up and threw both of my hands. I was like, this fucking finish ruined it for me. Not that I thought I was watching, Can-Am Express versus Kikuchi, but the point, it just totally took me out of it. Just a preposterous finish on what, you're right, was one of the matches that was an actual professional wrestling match on the show, and the finish just took me right out of it.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly the Fantastic First of Midnights or whatever, but it was, it was a good match on the show that was mostly pretty fucking horrible. And speaking of pretty fucking horrible, steel cage match, Charles Mason versus Richard Halliday. This fucking promo package was about 20 minutes long and featured Richard Halliday framing Charles Mason for murder or assault or something, and then Charles Mason going to prison and them saying that he was legitimately in prison, and then he got out of prison, and now he's out of prison and he's going to face Richard Halliday on this show. But the idea is that we don't know that Richard Halliday set him up to go to prison, even though that's kind of the implications that I'm like, what the fuck is happening? Okay, fine. Great. So they have a professional wrestling match in a steel cage. And the best part about this entire match.
Hold on, Rich. Hold on. What's the point of a steel cage?
Well, I was about to say, okay, so.
What? You tell me. What's the point?
Ideally, the point of a steel cage match and the way that it was invented was it is a match that's going to keep the two combatants or many, maybe sometimes it's tag teams, sometimes it's the opponents, whatever it may be. It is to keep the wrestlers in the ring, and it's to keep other people out of the ring. You put a cage around,
right.
and the two combatants or the multiple combatants stay in the ring, and nobody else can enter the ring.
And no one else can get in.
Correct.
Right? Normally, you're having this feud. One guy keeps escaping the ring and running away from the other, or maybe one guy has his pals who keep getting involved. So you settle it in a steel cage.
Mm-hmm.
So it keeps people out, and it keeps people in.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
That's the point of a steel cage.
That's what I thought.
Right,
I thought that was the point, yes. This match made me believe that is no longer the point, as well as modern wrestling has maybe decided that maybe the steel cage match is just fucking dead, and we're relics of the past for thinking that that's what the steel cage match is. Because, Joe, I think steel cage matches.
It's not the point of a steel cage match anymore.
No, now it's like there's a fence that we can throw each other into occasionally. That's what the point of a steel cage match is. This
is a match where we have to come up with a stipulation to make things interesting. So let's do a match where we can throw each other into a fence. There was, and then, Paro just casually strolls down to the ring.
So Paro's involved in this somehow.
Look, this was clearly booked. This match was clearly laid out by people of a certain age who have no idea what a cage match is supposed to be. Is that fair? I mean, am I being unfair?
No. We're at a point now where modern wrestling fans, probably newer wrestling fans,
have no idea what the point of a cage match is.
Right. The point of a cage match is it looks cool for a feud, and these guys can throw each other into the cage occasionally.
Right. And it's like I almost don't even blame whoever laid this match out, obviously the people involved in it predominantly, with a little bit of whoever books this godforsaken company, maybe laid this match out. I don't think people know any better anymore, because it's just been decades of cage matches where the heels or the baby faces get into the ring every time anyway. And this didn't even, they didn't.
This was the most egregious one. This was one of the most egregious ones I've ever seen, because Perro comes down to the ring and he goes to the door and he opens the door and he just walks in.
He just opens the door and walks in.
He didn't have bolt cutters. He didn't rip the door off. It's not like Kane in Hell in a Cell 1997 or whatever, where he's got to rip the door off the hinges and throw it down and then he can enter the ring. Perro walks up and they go, "Oh, what's Perro doing?" And he goes, and he opens the door and he walks in.
Like he's turning a doorknob. He just walks in.
He just walks in. The referee goes, "Hey, get out of here. Get out of here."
No, and then he just beats up the referee.
Right.
Then he just beats up Charles Mason. Perfectly legal, Cole.
Perfectly legal, Cole. Steel cage.
I mean, it's game changer. Yeah. There's no fucking standards or rules. So perfectly legal, Cole. Puts Mason on top of Holiday. Or puts Holiday on top of Mason or whatever. Wakes the referee up.
Well, then he gets mad. It's great because you have a little bit of thing here where he attacks the referee, he beats up Mason, puts Holiday on top of Mason, and then goes, "Oh, God damn it, referee, get up." Get up.
Right.
It's just like, okay.
Gets him up, and then finally the ref makes the pin. It's a kick out. So then Perro's mad, so he just gets back in the ring to do it again. Like he just walks in again. And that's the thing. Can we at least have a facade or pretend that we're paying attention to what the psychology of a cage match is supposed to be? Can we have an army of referees trying to hold him back, and then maybe he has to throw the referees out of the way? Like Rich said, can we have a lock on there that maybe he needs bolt cutters?
Right, just something. That's all I'm asking. Bolt cutters.
Or
he's
something.
Strong. He's a big strapping man. He could just rip the door off. Just
big strong guy.
I'm telling you, he walks up like it's your gate, the dog fence. You have to keep your dog in the backyard.
Right.
He walks up and goes, and just opens it. He just
opens it up and walks in. No. Could we at least have some baby faces maybe try to stop him, and then he beats them up? Nothing. Because at least when you see this in WWE or AEW, or like, they'll have a token resistance for the heel. They didn't even bother here. This was just, this man's going to turn a doorknob and walk in. Not once, Rich Craig, but twice. Then he does it again after Mason kicks out. Then Mason's buddy comes down, and he just waltzes right into the fucking
who was this
door.
guy? Some Jersey Championship Wrestling dude? I didn't even know who this guy was. I didn't even
So this guy, basically, he rings the doorbell before he politely enters into the fucking cage. None of the fact that we've got, the usual pile of fucking chairs. Can I ask you a question about this Game Changer Wrestling, Rich Craig?
Why is it popular?
Besides those questions.
Oh.
Why don't the matches just start with the chairs in the ring? Why do we do this performative deal like with Effie in the main event, where we make the wrestlers go under the ring to retrieve the chairs when we know they're going to do it anyway? We know that there's no rules, right? How about every match the chairs are just already? Why don't we save everybody the time
right.
and the chairs are already in the ring? Wouldn't that be more efficient? So you got this cage match. There's chairs everywhere. You got people walking in and out like it's Seinfeld's apartment. It's just what is this?
I don't know.
I tell you what it is.
It's shit.
It's fucking garbage. That's what it is. God, did this suck? And I think Charles Mason and Richard Holiday are decent little wrestlers.
They're decent wrestlers. Yeah. So at one point in this godforsaken match, Richard Holiday turns to Charles Mason and goes, "You're right. I did set you up." And he goes, "I'm not sorry. I don't love you." And then he super kicked him. Do you get it, Joe? Do you get it? Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair, "I'm sorry, I love you."
Yeah, we got the one act play in the middle of this too.
So
this fucking shit show. Yeah, this was fucking terrible.
Then Charles Mason beat him, so he got revenge for being blackmailed or set up and be put in prison.
But here's the thing. Yeah. Even in the pre-match video, though, they showed Charles Mason attacking a prison guard by biting his face off. Correct. So maybe he belongs in prison.
I agree. He was an unhinged monster. Yeah, he killed two prison guards on the way to the arena. It appeared so.
Murdered two men who were just doing their jobs. And maybe Richard Holiday is right. That's how I came away from this match.
Oh,
terrible.
God. All right. Next was a match that on paper I was like, oh, here we go. This will be good, right? Sidney Akim versus El Hijo del Vikingo. And this was not good at all. This was just 10 minutes. Not that spectacular. A lot of groundwork, a couple of flippy-doos here and there, and then Sidney Akim beat Vikingo, and it was over, and you will never think of this match ever again.
I'm going to give these guys a break because Vikingo, we didn't even know if he was going to work the show coming off the injury. Maybe he he wasn't completely healthy or whatever. So I don't know. I'm not going to be too hard on these guys, but you're right. There just wasn't much to this. Vikingo didn't look good at all. Sidney Akim, he can do some very unique things with his body.
This is the former Scripps. For people that are not aware, this is the former Scripps or Reggie from WWE.
Reginald.
Yeah, Reginald. He was a Cirque du Soleil guy, a gymnast or whatever. So he's got a ton of, physical ability, and things he can do with his body. The thing with him is, can you ever get him to figure out how to put together a professional wrestling match? And WWE tried for about 4 or 5 years to make it happen, and they didn't. They deemed that they could not do it, I guess.
The worst Cirque show I ever saw was the Michael Jackson themed one.
Okay.
I've been to many Cirque shows. The Michael Jackson themed one was that Michael Jackson song "Leave Me Alone," I believe it's called, the "Leave Me Alone," right? And so when you're coming in, they're playing that, and there's these fake paparazzi running around with the big light bulb cameras,
okay,
the flash bulb cameras, and it's taking your picture as you're coming in, they're paparazzi. And you're like, what the fuck is this? Get out of here.
I don't love that. Scram. Get out of here. Yeah.
But that's the point though. You're supposed to be and while that song is playing, the "Leave Me Alone" song or whatever, right? And then when you get to your seat on the big screen, they're showing all the pictures that they just took.
No.
So now, you see, Joe Lanza making this "get the fuck away from me" face, and an Italian gesture at the person taking the picture of me. I found that very invasive, Rich Craich. I don't come to a show to get my picture taken and then get stuck on the fucking screen. But yeah, then the show stinks too. It's the worst Cirque show there is. I don't know if it's still running or whatever. I don't know if that's the one that Sidney Akim was in, but that show was so bad. It was so bad that I would have walked out of it, except it was a work function, and I couldn't insult the owners of the company.
You paid a shit ton of money for that thing.
Right. So we got these great seats, and we're in this show. And
so I'm assuming this is in Vegas, right?
Yeah.
Was this at Mandalay Bay?
I don't recall what hotel. I don't know what.
It looks like it is still going on. Yes, Thursdays to Mondays. Michael Jackson won Cirque du Soleil at the Mandalay Bay. Yeah,
stinks. It stinks because Cirque shows are always good. These motherfuckers, they get the shit that they do. But that show fucking stinks. I would say
let's see how much tickets are for this thing. Let's do a ticket for 9:30. 9:30 tonight. Let's go a little late night show.
Those shows are all reasonable. I'm sure it's not that much.
$76 get you in the door.
Yeah, they're not. Those Vegas shows aren't super expensive. Yeah, but I couldn't leave. I'm trapped. I can't get up and tell the millionaire owner of the company, I've had enough. I'm going to the sports book.
Right. I'll be at the book.
Come meet me at Caesars. I'll be at the Bellagio.
Yeah.
No, you can't do that. So I had to sit there through that whole dopey show.
Watching some weird West Coast college basketball or whatever, because at that point there's nothing else on. So you're betting on Hawaii versus San Diego State. You got who's the old coach, the old Michigan coach that was at San Diego State forever?
Oh, Fisher?
Yeah, Fisher. You're he's running a tight ship here at San Diego.
Right.
It's Joe just left a show where the guy, he probably paid $290 per ticket. You know what I mean? And you're right. I'm going to go watch Fisher do his thing for the Aztecs.
Yeah, I put a little action on it. I got my $20 ticket, my $20 fucking, over under. Absolutely.
Some Mountain West basketball, some solid Mountain West basketball. Yeah.
I was trapped. It was even worse than who's the street magician guy?
Chris Angel.
So I saw Chris Angel.
Well, there's also David Blaine, but I think you're talking about Chris Angel.
I'm talking about Chris Angel. He had a show at what's that?
Still fucking does. By the way, there's banners all over Las Vegas of Chris Angel, and we cannot believe that there are still people every single week going to see Mind Freak with Chris Angel at. I
don't know if it was Mind Freak. It was because he's at a number of different shows, and it was probably like 10 years ago. But
I think he's got his own fucking theater. Planet Hollywood is where he's at now. It appears.
Okay, see,
but it's called the Chris Angel Arena. I think because he's been there so long.
He's had different shows over the years.
Okay.
When I saw him, he still had his show at that dusty old casino that's shaped like a pyramid. What the hell is that?
Luxor. The Luxor.
He was at Luxor at the time. So whatever his show was when he was at Luxor, that was not a good show, but it was 1,000 times better than the Michael Jackson Cirque show. That was
interesting.
You know who was shockingly entertaining?
It's Carrot. You always tell this Carrot Top story if it's good.
Carrot Top.
You always,
Carrot Top was
like
so
the
good.
12th time you've told the Carrot Top story on this show.
I'm telling you, people got to go see Carrot Top.
Mania Weekend.
It's a good show.
Mania Weekend's in Las Vegas, folks. Carrot Top.
Don't go see Michael Jackson one. Go to Carrot Top. You're going to get your money's worth. Guy's very entertaining, Rich Craig.
I knew you were champing at the bit to tell your Carrot Top to put Carrot Top over. You love putting Carrot Top over.
Yeah. People like to bang on Carrot Top, but he does a great show. He's got that big chest. He pulls out the gimmicks.
His roided up body,
his roided up weird body, and his
weird
Rocky
face.
Dennis face. He looks like Rocky Dennis. That's what he looks like. He looks like a jacked Rocky Dennis is what he looks like. So he's pulling the gimmicks out of the chest.
People are gonna look up Rocky Dennis and figure out who he is. But
I love Mask. Love Mask. That's Cher's best. I'm sorry, that's Cher's best performance. That movie's so good. So come on, you can't tell me that's not what he looks like.
I hate to say it. I hate to admit you're right. I'm not going to agree with you, but you are right, yes.
It's like jacked Rocky Dennis. He looks like. You got Sam Elliott as Gar in that movie. That's a great movie. I'm going to watch Mask, I think, when we're done with this. But what were we talking about? Oh, Sidney Hakim, because he was in Cirque du Soleil, right?
Yes.
So, but he could do some crazy things with his body, but I'm going to give Vikingo a pass. I'm going to wait till he gets, 6 months from now.
Yeah, I wonder if we're maybe reaching the point with Vikingo where he has to adjust and we have to adjust what Vikingo is. Because this guy was spectacular and everybody was like, oh, once he figures out every other part of wrestling, nothing's going to stop him. You know what I mean? Like, he is going to be one of the top stars in wrestling. And now we're a couple years removed from that. And he's had a ton of injuries and I don't think he has really improved all that much. And you were one of the hot take people back in his days when he was, at his peak spectacular. And you said, I kind of wish this guy had some other stuff. I kind of wish he doesn't have it all. Like, everyone's getting wowed by, these incredible flips and these incredible dives and all this spectacular stuff. But the stuff between is not there yet, and he's got to figure that stuff out. And I do wonder if we're maybe reaching a point where people have to sort of adjust their expectations of Vikingo, because maybe just not, because I don't think he's gonna be able to do the spectacular anymore. So can he have a transformation like a Rey Mysterio had? We'll see. But he was never Rey Mysterio before. You know what I mean? Rey Mysterio was fucking phenomenal before. I don't know that Vikingo was ever that before, but we'll see.
No, I'm just saying, I'm not even going to judge him against himself here, because
yeah,
he's right back from an injury. It's not the original Tiger Mask across the ring from him either. I mean, let's be honest.
Right.
So, I'll cut him a break. I'm not going to bang on this match too hard.
All right, so we'll move on to next was the Los Desperados, Arez, Grigo Loco, and Jack Cartwheel versus Little Guido, Super Crazy, and Tajiri. Big spot in this match was they went outside the ring, and Super Crazy did a balcony dive onto everybody. So that was kind of cool to see Super Crazy do that. I was a little worried, given the Alley Catch recently broke her leg about an hour ago, that, oh man, I'm sure we want Super Crazy going up to the balcony and doing a moonsault, but fuck it, it's Super Crazy. Why not? So I thought this was pretty good. I do also enjoy Tajiri just embracing that he's an old man these days. He finally let it go. The dyes, he doesn't want to spend time sitting there dyeing that fucking hair anymore.
He didn't dye his hair for a Game Changer show. He looked like Taylor Hicks. He just came out there and was gray and proud, and and look, this was the one thing about this is I could have swore I saw Jack Cartwheel wrestle 3 other times on this show already at this point. To the point where I went back and looked to make sure
just
I wasn't
to make sure he wasn't in
crazy.
that Rumble. Yeah, because he felt like a guy that was in that Rumble and or also in that Scramble match. So it's possible he was in all 3 of those matches, but I think he was only in this match.
Listen, I'm not convinced. I'm still not convinced. I didn't see him earlier on the show, but the cage match claims it's not the case. Why was he wearing like the El Ligero headgear and mask?
You're right. I thought he was El Ligero at first. And I went, whoa.
Like, wow, they booked El Ligero?
They don't care.
Cool.
Yeah, they do not fucking care. They're booking. I mean, like, I wouldn't book El Ligero, but if they want to knock themselves out, it's game change. You can't cancel what's already canceled, right? So, but no, they did not book El Ligero. It was Jack Cartwheel. But this is fine.
Yeah, it was fine. Yeah, this was.
Base God did his nice basing, make sure that Crazy and Tajiri didn't get hurt, and that was it. So.
It's like maybe the second or third best match on the show.
It was pretty, because it was just professional wrestlers wrestling. Like,
contender for the best match on the show.
I would say if you said this is your favorite match on the show, I would not argue with you. It's probably my
fight you.
Second or third, I would say.
Not going to fight you.
Next up, Bloodsport. We're taking the ropes off, baby. So we have a long video, and then we take the ropes off, and it's time for Josh Barnett versus FKA Baron Corbin, Tom Pestock. These fans at midnight or so Eastern on a Sunday, not into Josh Barnett's form of Bloodsport. They gave it an honest try, and then they realized, this fucker's just going to roll around in the ring on the mat for...
Yeah, but Barnett was going to do his match.
Yeah.
No matter what. I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. It was a Bloodsport match.
It was a Josh Barnett
Bloodsport.
Yeah, I think we need to make that distinction because unfortunately the original Bloodsport as we know it is long dead and never happening again. But the last, because now we're up to like 13 Bloodsports or something. I forget what we're at right now with Josh Barnett's Bloodsports. But this is what the Josh Barnett Bloodsport thing is. It's not the freak show fights thing. It is amateur grapplers grapple, or a former MMA wrestler grapples with an amateur grappler thing here. But I thought Pestock looked okay. I thought Barnett did Barnett things. The problem was the crowd just did not want this at this point in the show, and they were just booing every time. They would transition from like one arm bar to the other, and it looked good. You know what I mean? It looked like a good, like at one point Pestock like transitioned from like this to like Kimura or whatever, and it was like a nice like, and the crowd was like boo, boo, and then anytime Barnett did anything, they just said boo, but not, and they weren't booing in like the we don't want Josh Barnett to win. They were just like, get the fuck out of our ring, dude. Come on, this is like we're at midnight and you're doing your bullshit. Like just get out of here. But I thought it was fine. I thought it was perfectly okay. There was
nothing wrong with this, and also I just wasn't interested in it at all.
Yeah, it's a perfect way to put it. But Barnett gets the win. He's not putting Pestock over. Are you kidding me? Not Bloodsport.
Pestock's going to give it a go. He trademarked the new name and everything.
Yeah, he's the Nomad Bishop Dane. What the hell is it? Let me get the Tom Pestock. What is he? He is. Let me get the exact.
Bishop Hell.
No, he is, what the fuck is his new name?
Blaine Bishop.
Bishop Dyer. The Nomad Bishop Dyer. So look for him at, feels like the most TNA guy that's ever TNA'd, right? But now would he be in TNA though, given the current circumstances?
We'll talk about that. Let's talk about that. So.
We'll see. But, Pestock looked fine with his weird belly button. So we moved on next to Megan Bayne versus Atticus Cogar. This had like a 25-minute pre-match video, and I was like, motherfucker, we don't need this. We're so late in the show. This poor crowd just wants to go home. Can we please just get to this wrestling match? But we had a 25-minute match, 25-minute promo, getting us ready for Atticus Cogar's return to GCW, and he had this match here with Megan Bayne, and then they proceeded to have wrestling match and multiple spots where Atticus Cogar fucked up royally, including one time doing a I think he was trying to do like a Death Valley driver off the top rope onto the apron and just fucking missed the apron and just dropped Megan Bayne onto the floor. And I'm like, motherfucker, like she just signed with AEW. Like I hope for her sake she's like, I'm good. I'm done with this shit. I don't need this shit anymore. Joey, knock yourself out. I'm good. This was fine. I don't know. I think it was bad, but at this point I was just like, fine, whatever. Just end.
Yeah, I thought it was terrible. I don't know. And yeah, he almost killed her on that spot. You know, and I'm surprised that she was allowed to work the show, you know, with all the heat between the two companies right now. But this is a good example of why you don't want your people on these shows.
Right, because Kogar will do a Death Valley Gyro off the top rope through a to land on the apron and then completely miss the apron and just fucking land on the floor.
Kerplunk and splat on the fucking floor.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to watch this intergender to begin with, you know, and then the match is bad, and I don't know. At this point, I just wanted this show to be over, but there was a lot left.
There was a lot left to go. So next up was Joey Janela versus Masato Tanaka. So Joey Janela, Masato Tanaka. At this point, I was like, oh my fucking God, Janela's going to go 40 minutes with Masato Tanaka. Because, you know, if this was a Joey Janela's spring break, he doesn't give a fuck what the hell happened on the rest of the show. He's getting his shit in, and he's going to have his classic with his, you know, old time guy that he really adores and loves or whatever with Masato Tanaka. Thankfully, Joey Janela, or probably Masato Tanaka, said, no, 13 minutes will be just enough. So this only went 13 minutes. It was whatever. I don't know. I thought it was perfectly okay. I mean, Masato Tanaka is still capable of having some decent matches these days, but he has a certain style that he has to work for it to be a decent match. And Janela, I don't know. I wanted to like this a little bit more than I did, but I don't know if I was just so burnt out on the show. But when it was done, I was just like, yeah, whatever. I'll never think about this match ever again.
So, I mean, he hit him in the head with the chairs. That's what you're there to see.
Yeah.
And that was that. I mean, it was fine. You know, it was not Masato Tanaka, Mike Awesome from the same building. It was, you know, he got hit in the head with the chairs, and it was. I
think it was fine. It was fine, I would say. But anyway, Joe Janela gets the win and then does a long post-match promo saying this guy's a fucking legend. This is Masato Tanaka. Yeah. And then it all leads to a promo video. And we come back to the arena. And Joe, the lights are out. And it's Sabu. For this time, it is actually Sabu.
Yes.
And him and Joey stare at each other. And Joey says, Sabu, retirement match. Joey Janela's spring break. And Sabu doesn't say anything. So I guess it's on. Did Sabu say anything? Did he nod? I guess he nodded, right? Sort of.
He didn't talk.
He didn't say anything. So you're going to be there for Sabu's retirement match at Joey Janela's spring break? At the Pearl Theater at the Palms Casino? No,
I will not.
No. All right. Well, maybe he'll show up this time. He doesn't always show up to Game Changer bookings.
Doesn't always show up.
Takes the money. Doesn't always show up. The best, I think was it last year's WrestleMania weekend? He was getting inducted to the Hall of Fame and just didn't show, even though he stayed at the hotel. He was like, people were like, he's like 50 yards away. He could just walk into the room.
Yeah, he just didn't come downstairs.
He just decided he didn't want to. He's there. He's paid. He's in the building. He just has to walk down an elevator. You know, get on an elevator, ding, walk up. That's all. Or go down an escalator, or whatever it was. I don't know the method of just decided, nah, I'm good. Which I kind of dig for Sabu. But we'll see if he shows up here at Mania Weekend.
Everything from this point forward was just a gigantic pile of dog shit.
Now it's going to get. If you thought we were nasty to the show before, just wait till this shit. Because
I don't even think we've been that mean.
No, we have not. We have kind of let them off the hook here. So then next up was Matt Cardona, who comes out, and you're not going to believe this, Joe. He comes out and says, "You guys are all fucking nerds. You guys like deathmatch wrestling because you're fucking lame, and I'm Matt Cardona." And it's like, wow, all right.
I'm so over Cardona.
We're still doing this. The same gimmick we've been doing for 4 fucking years. I'm the deathmatch king. Wait, no, he's not. Boo. It's like, this is what we're still doing. Matt Cardona. Okay. All right. So anyway, if any of these fucking losers in the back want to accept my challenge, get out here right now. So then we get another video of some guy on the top of a fucking mountain. And I'm like, what is happening here? What is going on this show? And then a man comes out and we're told it is Tommy Invincible, social media star Tommy Invincible. Joe, who the fuck is social media star Tommy Invincible?
I don't know. I thought that this was, just one of these Game Changer wrestling geeks that they at least knew who he was. Their fan, but I guess no one knows who this guy is.
We were told he's a social media star, Tommy Invincible. Never heard of him. No idea.
Okay, sure.
No idea who Tommy Invincible is, but he's a social media star. Tommy Invincible. So he comes out, and Matt Cardona's like, all right, I'll face this fucking geek. And then Tommy Invincible gets like a move or two, and then Matt Cardona beats him in a minute. And then he goes, no, I'm not leaving till I face one of somebody else. Somebody my own, that can battle Matt Cardona. Whatever the fuck he said. Who cares? And then Microman came out. And
hilarious, Rich.
And
hilarious.
He's very short. In case you don't get the gimmick, he's short. And Matt Cardona is a normal-sized human. So they get in the ring, and Microman, he's short, so he put his, Matt Cardona does a test of strength. Oh, let's do a test of strength, but Microman cannot reach Matt Cardona's test of strength because he's small. You see,
so it was so funny.
Matt Cardona's tall.
Yeah, I mean,
just a barrel of laughs here. And then Matt Cardona, said, "Oh, I should get on your level." And then he got to his knees, and then he got drop kicked and slapped a little bit, and then he beat Microman in a minute and 31.
And then the next guy out was Early Morning Guy Steele. He was the next guy out.
That's not true. That's a lie.
No, that didn't happen.
I don't think. Maybe. Joe, I don't know. Maybe it did. I don't fucking know what happened anymore.
Where was Early Morning Guy Steele? I thought he came out next. I was waiting for Early Morning Guy Steele, but he didn't come out.
He did not come out. No. Then next, what was next? That would have been great if Early Morning Guy Steele came out. But then next up was, oh my God. So then Matt Cardona's like, if there's any of these fucking dorks back there in the locker room, come out here and face Matt Cardona. And then Jimmy Lloyd, who has gone under the tutelage of Matt Cardona now and is now known as Broski Jimmy, takes off his headband and his sunglasses, and then he beats up Matt Cardona, and they go, finally, he's broken free from the clutches of Matt Cardona. And I'm like, oh yeah, cool. And then he beat Matt.
Well, I mean, to be fair, this is a better payoff than Athena and Billy Starks.
True. You're right. They did the thing correctly, right?
That's right.
By the way, I should note that during this entire segment, everybody thought Nick Gage was coming out.
Of course.
Every single time Matt Cardona beat a guy, everybody went, everybody was going, Nick fucking Gage. And then Microman came out. And then they go, Nick fucking Gage. And then Jimmy Lloyd beat him up. And then it was just over. And then that was just done. And Nick Gage wasn't on the show. So.
Mm-hmm. No Nick Gage.
Right.
Even though he was hanging out at MSG with
if you're going to do it, okay, here's the thing. If you have a breakup with this guy, a very public breakup, and then there are images of him appearing back with you guys in a skybox or whatever. And then you have Matt Cardona. And then you have Matt Cardona do a mystery opponent thing.
Right.
What do you think people are going to think?
What do you think they're going to think?
And then you can do the gimmick where Tommy Invincible comes out and you beat his ass. And then Matt Cardona says, no, I want someone real. And then, Nick Gage comes out and the crowd goes fucking, ape shit.
Yeah.
They didn't do it. You can't look if don't do the mystery gimmick thing. You didn't have to do the mystery gimmick thing, especially if it was going to be Tommy Invincible and Microman.
Right.
What the fuck?
Because that's even adding fuel to the fire that it's going to be Nick Gage.
Right. Because you have these gimmick guys come out, and then Matt Cardona's like, no, I need someone real to come out, and then it blows the roof off when Nick Gage finally answers the challenge.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't do that.
Yeah, and it kind of I mean. Plus, it's like 2 a.m. by this point.
Yes, and everybody is not enthused with this segment. So Jimmy Lloyd is no longer Broski Jimmy. He defeated Matt Cardona. All right. Finally, mercifully, we're at our fucking main event. GCW World Title, Effie, Mance Warner. And then these motherfuckers proceeded to go 20 minutes with a walk and brawl and put each other through 17 doors and hit each other with 107 chairs. And nobody cares. Nobody in this building gives a fuck. No one's making any noise. These guys are killing themselves in the ring here. Nobody is doing anything. Nobody's popping for any big moves. Mance Warner's trying his best to get the crowd against him. Every time he's done with a move, he's like, oh, fuck you, fat boy, fuck you. He's trying his best. Nobody cares. Every time Effie's on offense, he's trying to get the crowd willed. Nobody fucking cares. Effie wins. Great. He's a GCW World Title or champion, and it's over. So it's like, fuck. 20 minutes at the end of this insanely long show. You guys are going to break the 4,000th door that's been broken on the show. Nobody gives a fuck. You're going to hit each other with the 8,000th chair. Nobody gives a fuck. And nobody gave a fuck about this match at all. It was just not very good. Just a bad match.
Nah, the crowd was tired. They wanted to leave. It had no energy. Just bog standard hardcore junk. Yeah, and they can't do another one of these, right? I mean,
No, we're done. We're done.
Are we done with this now?
We're done. And I think on this show are done forever. Other than WrestleMania weekend, talking about GCW. Even if they go to Hammerstein again, I'm fucking done.
I mean, we've proven twice that we don't belong in the building, right? Like, haven't we proven that twice now?
Yeah.
That you can't have a show good enough to be in a building that's had a lot of good wrestling. You can't do it. It's you're not capable. You got a nice little thing going with a nice little fan base. You do your little shows at the former Showboat in Atlantic City, and you got your little niche, and this is just over your head, man. It's just over your head. You can't pull it off. This is 2 complete disasters in a row. You didn't prove anyone wrong. What are you going to do? The People versus GCW 2 because
right.
You stunk again?
Okay. We swear this time it's going to be good. We promise.
Right. Where do you go from
give
here?
us one more chance. 3rd time's the charm. We got it. We understand. We got it. We'll be okay. This time it'll be good. No, yeah. We're done here.
Yeah. I mean, there's nowhere to go from here. Cage Match thinks it was worse than the last one. A lot of outlets that reviewed the last one didn't even bother reviewing this one. We're done here. We're done. You can't. You're out kicking your coverage here. That's all.
Yeah, you don't belong here. You don't belong here. You don't belong in this realm. You know what I mean? This is not your realm. Go back to doing what you're doing. So,
gave it a second shot. And what these shows do is it really.
Is that a cat?
It just explode. Huh?
There's some loud noise in the background of your.
Loud noise.
Yeah.
Is my house getting broken into?
I don't know.
Again?
No, it was like a screech, like a cat screech or something like that. I don't know if anybody else heard that. So.
Are they sending early morning Guy Steele for me for this negative review? Is he
somebody in the chat room had a good when we were talking about the guys coming out. He said he did get the name wrong, but I will correct the name that he had. I said Delightful Dan, the goddamn Candyman, came out next, but I assure you, Delightful Dan, the goddamn Candyman, did not come out during the Matt Carter of the segment.
Hold on, don't be silly. That's a Circle 6 wrestler,
right? Yeah, come on,
come on, at least. Get your bits right.
Yeah.
It's just I don't even remember what I was going to say. Just that
who cares?
It wasn't good again. I don't know. Enough. We're done here.
Would you like some breaking news, Joe, about some of the men we've just talked about?
Sure.
Okay. Mance Warner has debuted on TNA Wrestling, and he appeared on TNA this airing as we're doing this show here with his wife. I believe they're married. I don't know if it's girlfriend or I think they're married.
Steph Delander.
Yeah, I believe maybe it's boyfriend. Maybe they're just boyfriend girlfriend. But Steph Delander, and she had the Impact Digital Media title, which she won in her divorce from PCO.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. All
right. So, I guess we'll find out more whether this is a make good or old Manser is getting a shot in TNA, which he'd do fine.
That's a good spot for him. Yeah, he needs to move on past GCW, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. He needs. Yeah, I completely agree.
He should just tell them
whatever
I'm good.
I'm
good. I need to.
Well, if he get, I mean, if they hire him, yeah.
Sure.
I mean, it's but he likes that. He likes to bleed and he likes that stuff. He's a sicko, in all the right ways. But all right, we'll see if they're just doing a make good for what happened at the pay-per-view, or if they're headed there. I don't know.
That is the People versus GCW. And Joe, I am closing the book, the metaphorical book on Game Changer Wrestling until
poor Dave Prazak trying to make sense of a lot of this garbage.
I always think that about that because he's so good, and he's the best in the biz. He's one of the best in the biz. One of the great all-time announcers.
It was funny because during the cage match at one point when there was 19 different people just strolling into the ring, and Paro went brawling out the door with whoever that other guy was, Prazak goes, all right, well, they're ensuring that this remains one-on-one in the ring. And I'm like,
yes, I do remember that. That's right, Dave.
Dave, there was just 5 people in the ring. He's trying, though. Like, he's trying his best.
Yeah.
Because he knows what a fucking cage match is supposed to be. Okay? He understands. And he is doing his best to retain any kind of logic in a world where there is none. And
he's
he
trying
really
to put logic
does try
into
hard.
an illogical situation, and God bless him.
Yeah.
God bless him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember the cage match because I remember just how I was. That's the one I watched most of that cage match at the gym while I was on the Stairmaster, and I love that Prazak being. Yeah, I remember howling, laughing, to myself, and having people looking around because Dave Prazak be like, "Oh, they're ensuring that we're going to keep this thing one-on-one and settle it in this cage."
Yeah, that's what he said. Yeah. Like, what?
We're going to settle this one-on-one with nobody else in the cage, and I'm like, everybody was just in the cage. Everybody was just in the cage. The referee was just assaulted by one of the men in the cage. My God. All right. So, fuck.
And Dave, it's because he knows better. He was the only guy in the Observer readers pages in those days who wasn't asking for a copy of Howard Stern's Butt Bongo Fiesta or Tracy Lord's tapes. He was like the only one, right? So he knows. He goes back and he knows what wrestling is supposed to be like, and he's got to call this slop. I mean, good for him getting the work, but
he's got
Kevin Gill.
He's got to know it sucks, right?
He has to know it sucks.
There's no way.
There's no way he doesn't think it's good. There's no way he thinks it's good.
I think he's happy to get work in a post-Shimmer world, but I also I don't think he thinks it's good.
And he likes being around wrestling
Sure.
and all that. You know what I mean? But I if you asked him privately, he doesn't think that these shows are good. There's no fucking way,
There's no way
that he thinks these shows are good. This guy called ROH.
Yeah, peak ROH. Yeah, there's no way. But there you go. That's his The People versus GCW. We'll see GCW now on WrestleMania weekend, and then hopefully never again for the rest of the year. We'll see them next WrestleMania weekend. That's it. All right, so that is the end of GCW talk. Let's go on to WWE here real quick. Saturday night's main event is coming up this weekend. Yes, there is another Saturday night's main event this weekend live on NBC and Peacock. Joe, we are not instant reacting live to this one at all because this looks like really nothing to happen to show from top to bottom here. We have Gunther defending the World Heavyweight title against main event Jey Uso, finally in a main event. Intercontinental Championship, Braun Breaker versus Sheamus, Jacob Fatu versus Braun Strowman, and then for the WWE Women's World title, Rhea Ripley versus Nia Jax. Why is Nia Jax getting a title shot?
She attacked Rhea Ripley.
But didn't she just lost her other title because Tiffany Stratton turned on her and cashed in?
That's correct.
Shouldn't we follow up on that or something? No?
No, well, she attacked Rhea Ripley.
Okay. Wouldn't Nia want her revenge on Tiffy time?
Well, I mean, she attacked Rhea Ripley.
She did attack Rhea Ripley, so she deserves
Which I think someone pointed out, she is exactly what they did last January. Nia Jax attacking Rhea Ripley.
Cool. So there you go. She gets a championship opportunity at Rhea Ripley, and then main event Jey versus Gunther. Let's see if he can shit the bed yet again in a major spot. But this not exactly as stacked as the first Saturday night's main event. I guess Shawn Michaels will be there, Kevin Owens will be there, and maybe Hulk Hogan will be there, but probably. You think they put Hogan in front of a live crowd again, or no? You think it's just pre-tapes for the Hulkster?
Maybe. Can they have him do a heel routine? Lean in?
Is that going to sell beer? I think they're trying to sell that beer. I don't know if they're going to do a heel routine with him.
I mean...
They got to sell cases of the real American beer, whatever the fuck.
Do you think he doesn't want to go out there and get booed, though, so maybe he wants to do a heel routine and lean in?
Yeah. I don't know.
Did you see Punk take advantage of the Hogan?
I did. Of course he did.
Of course he did. Ride that wave, Phil.
Yep. Phil's a good guy.
What do you call it? dusty bones of Hulk Hogan. He was throwing him over the top rope
His
if he
dusty
could.
ass. I believe he called him his dusty ass. He
Dusty
goes, "You put
ass.
Hulk Hogan in the Rumble, I'll throw his dusty ass out of there." I think he said, he'll kill Hulkamania once and for all. So
Easy pop.
oh yeah,
Easy pop.
Right. I am an ally. If the shirt didn't say
Yes.
it, my words will. So,
Right. I can't wear the shirts that say it anymore.
but rest assured, I am an
I'm
ally.
going to make sure. Yes. Easy pop.
You just know too. The best part about it is because Hulk's such a fucking worker. He's going to show up because at some point he'll know about this, and he'll pitch it. He'll say, brother, you put me in that Rumble. I'll tell you, man.
Yeah.
Me and Punk, we could do number. We could draw money, man. Do you know what would be great? You know what would be the best? Okay, here's the best thing ever. I just figured it out.
Punk worked himself into a shoe.
Yes.
Is that where you're going?
So they're not going to do it unless Dwayne says, you know what?
Right.
You know what? I feel pretty good.
I'm feeling the goosebumps.
Yeah. You feel that? You see that? You feel that?
Yeah.
You know,
Those are goosebumps.
Yeah. Maybe he hit the ring with Curtis Axel a couple times, bounced off the ropes a few times, and said, you know what? I'm good. And then they say, hold on a minute. Okay. We're going to do Roman the Rock.
Curtis Axel.
Right? Isn't that who he trains with? Joe Hennig? Is it a little Joe Hennig? A little little Michael McGillicuddy in the ring there? Bouncing
Is that who he works
I
out
think
with?
so. I think so. Yeah. I think that's who gets him ready for his in-ring returns. And yeah, Punk works himself into a shoot and they do Punk Hogan at Mania. That would be fucking incredible.
Yeah, worked himself into a shoot.
That would be so good for the banter and for the
He's gonna
discourse.
find a way to work Hulk Hogan. Find a way to work a match with Hulk Hogan. His dusty ass.
God, that would be good. I don't think that's where we're going, but keep it in the back pocket. Keep it in the back pocket. Be nice. But anyway, that's Saturday night's main event.
That's all you got on Saturday night's main
What
event?
else do you have? What do you have?
Give
me thoughts on Jacob Fatu versus Braun Strowman, sir.
All right. Well, I think Jacob Fatu. It's time to start pushing the big man from the not bloodline. Did you see they're not calling them the bloodline?
Yeah,
anymore?
they can't call them the bloodline anymore. Yeah, what are they called now?
I don't think they're called anything.
There's just nothing. Yeah, I thought there was a new name.
I believe
for them,
they're
but
called I think they're referring to them as the NWO Black and White. I believe is what they're referring to them now. Jacob Fatu and Solo and
the Tongans,
Tama Tonga and the Tonga they don't let wrestle because it's terrible, and eventually Tala Tonga. So the five of them, I believe, are now known as the NWO Black and Whites. So, but they're not referring to them as the blood. Like Solo Sikoa, he whiffed so badly at the top that not only did he just get beat clean and disregarded, and he lost his pepper necklace, they just stripped them of the fucking gimmick. Like they're not even allowed to be the bloodline anymore.
Right, you're just a group of men,
So.
but we want to make some more money on the bloodline as a name, and you are fucking ruining it because you're terrible. So we're just going to call you nothing.
Yeah.
Because I guess because Roman, is it the case that Roman is now the new tribal chief, or he's the back to being the tribal chief
again.
So now he runs the bloodline, I suppose would be the
Because they were the new bloodline, and now they're not the bloodline anymore because they don't have the pepper necklace.
right.
Ula Fala,
The
whatever.
OTC, the OTC is back to just being the TC now.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yes. Correct. But he doesn't have like a family, right? Because I guess the Jay Uso, who's his cousin, by the way, did you know that?
His cuz, yeah,
and
his
Jimmy
brother.
Uso,
Yeah, so Jimmy and Jay, they're brothers, right?
they're brothers. That's
They're
right.
brothers.
And
Okay,
they're
and they're
Rock's
cousins with who?
Roman Reigns.
Got it.
the
Okay.
tribal chief. They drift in and out of his orbit, but they're not like hanging out with him all the time.
Yeah. Well, you know what I would
know what
like
I
to
mean?
see? You know what I'd like to see? Okay, so Roman forms this thing, the bloodline or whatever. And let's say one of the Usos, Jimmy, joins, okay? Becomes his right-hand man or something like that. And then we decide that Jimmy wants to get Jay on board. So he's like, hey, Roman.
Or Jay wants to get Jimmy on board.
Whatever it may be, yeah. Insert Uso here. And then one of them...
Yeah, Jay's like, look, I want to be Roman's right-hand man. But
Right.
Jimmy you should get down with this. This sounds like a good plan.
He doesn't see it,
and then
though.
Jimmy could be like, hold on, I'm nobody's bitch.
Yeah, right. Yes. And then there's a little bit of conflict of, all right, so one Uso was all in and the other Uso's not in. And Roman, he's just kind of assessing this thing from the background, being like, I don't know.
Yes.
Is this man Uso enough, if to borrow a term or whatever, and then there's conflict
it's important to be Uso enough.
Right. And there's conflict there of which one of the Usos is aligned with Roman, which one's a part of the family, which, that they could get years out of that story. So I think that's a good way to go. So Roman's got, he's the leader of this bloodline. Insert an Uso, another Uso can be kind of on the outs, kind of in sometimes. I think there's money in that for sure.
That's, sounds fresh.
It does. It sounds like a nice way to freshen up the upper card, upper mid card to upper card of.
Well, I mean, Jacob will probably come. Jacob's probably going to come for the Ula Fala, right?
Yeah.
He's going to come for it because I think it's his time for a push.
I want the final boss.
You didn't break down any of these matches. You didn't break down any of the matches.
I want the final boss back. I want the Rock. God, we need the Rock coming back, right? We gotta have Dwayne getting involved in this.
Listen, I would love for him to come back.
I can't handle him just being like, "Nah, I'm good." I can't. I need him at the last possible minute to show up and just be like,
yeah. Not only do I want him to come back, I want him to come back at the 11th hour,
like whatever the last possible time that he could come in, which literally could be the day before WrestleMania. If he shows up and says, "Me and Roman, main event, WrestleMania. Can you feel it? Can you feel it, Nick? Can you feel it, Nick?" And it would happen because it's Dwayne.
I want him to do. Yeah, I want him to come back after Cena wins the Royal Rumble. Mm-hmm. Right after.
I want the marquee. I want the promotional posters out. I want everything out.
Right. The promotional materials. Like I want. Yeah. All the builds are. The wheels are in motion. Paul has set the alternate lineups aside, and he's like, "This is the
finally
one."
Put the other papers away. We finally settled on this WrestleMania card right here. It's laminated. It's ready to go.
And then I want that Moana director to decide, you know what? I like the first shots. I had a change of heart. I like what we've got on tape. Dwayne, you're free for the spring. Because, he was really annoyed that people were like, yeah, good, get out of here. He hated that. So he might, in the back of his mind, think, I'm going to show these motherfuckers that don't want me around to ruin their WrestleMania. So I can't completely write it off. And obviously, I hope it happens.
It's the best timeline. The best timeline.
It is.
It's just unannounced. He shows up backstage.
Yeah,
jumping around, wiggling his arms, like doing the wiggle arm thing or whatever.
Decides to stick his beak in, and it's Punk that loses the spot.
Of course, which is the best part of the discourse.
And
is that
that's the best part.
Yeah.
And then
Punk
he's got to work
from
with
facing
the
Roman to
facing the Hulkster.
Facing the Hulkster, which is
you nailed it. Because he worked himself into a shoot.
Or Seth. Or they just give him Seth freaking Rollins one more time.
Hey, give him Seth
with the same story where Seth goes,
"You left the company and now you're back. You know what? I carried this company on my back and you left."
Punk's got it.
Yeah.
To do the same story again.
"I was here. Where were you? You went to the competition.
Where were you went to the competition."
The same story. That I don't know if I like him having to face the Hulkster or him having to run back the Seth story.
Again with Seth.
Yeah. Again.
Yeah, it might be better. Or Drew puts the tattered friendship bracelet back together.
Right, one more time. Yeah. One more time with the bracelet.
Yeah. Look what I've got, Punk. He's like wearing the friendship bracelet.
Ching, ching, ching.
I'll shove it up your arse.
Right. Braun Breaker, Sheamus. Give me what you got for Braun Breaker and Sheamus. Should be hard hitting. It should be a fun little match. Saturday night's main event.
Isn't this the title Sheamus has never won?
Sure.
No, it doesn't.
Is that true?
Complete the. It's either this or the U.S. I think it's this.
Let's see. Let me go.
Yeah, it's this one. This is the title that has eluded him.
You know that for a fact.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. He is a 3-time United States champion, so it's not the U.S. He is a 1-time SmackDown Tag Team champion with Cesaro as the Bar. He's a 4-time Raw Tag Team champion with Cesaro as the Bar. He is a 3-time World Heavyweight champion. He's a 1-time World Heavyweight champion. There's 2. There's the WWE World Heavyweight title, which he has 3 times. There's the World Heavyweight title he has 1 time. And then he was also the Florida Heavyweight champion in FCW as well, if you want to add that to the mix.
No one cares about that. His whole deal is that's the one that has eluded him. That was the whole story of his WrestleMania match a few years ago.
Right. Okay.
So that's going to be the story here.
Why would he care that much about the IC title? But all right. I guess he's won them all, so this...
Because he needs to complete the whatever you call it now. It used to be the Triple Crown, but...
Yeah. It used to be the Grand Slam, too. I don't even think it's the fucking Grand Slam anymore. But I don't know what the hell it is.
But that's part of their canon, Rich, is that he hasn't won the Intercontinental title.
He's also not won the undisputed... Or no, whatever this new dumb title, the fake world title. That's a new one, right?
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. Even they know the 19 different versions of world titles they have is a bunch of nonsense. So if you've won one of them, I think it
counts. Because technically the one that Gunther has right now is a brand new title. The World Heavyweight Championship, the first champion is Seth freaking Rollins.
No, Punishment Martinez, right?
No. Seth won it first, and then Drew won it, and then Punishment Martinez cashed in.
Oh, yeah.
To win it. Right. And now Gunther holds it. So that technically is a new title. There's no lineage to that one. So technically he has not won that one either.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, they always have multiple world titles floating around. Mm-hmm. And I think that as long as you have won one of them...
it just counts, yeah.
You count as like a former world champion to them. You see?
I see. The catch-all is former world champion.
Right. You don't have to win all of the various world titles.
You just have to win one of them.
Because Cody technically has 2. As the undisputed.
Yes.
Despite the fact there's another one.
Very much a dispute. There's another title.
They still call him undisputed. And that is 2 titles, lineages that have come together. I think. Yeah.
Sure.
The Universal.
It was the Universal and the WWE. Heavyweight title. Yeah.
Right. So there was the Universal, there was the WWE, there was this new title, then there was the World Heavyweight, the big gold belt in Sheamus' day, right? Mm-hmm. He was around for that. Mm-hmm. So if you held any of those, and he held one of those, I don't know which one.
I think he held both. Actually.
Or something.
I think he had both.
Right. So that counts as part of like this, the trinkets he's collecting here. Like the last one he needs is the Intercontinental.
Paul Wedding with a great point here. John Cena also have never won the IC title. So maybe, yes, he wants 17 world titles, but he might want one IC title too.
Nobody wants that shit. That's why we have 17 world titles, because Triple H didn't want the Intercontinental title.
No,
that's
Cena.
How he got in this jam.
John Cena has never won the IC title.
Know,
yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes, because Paul said I need a new title. You got to give me a real title.
The reason we have 19 splintered world titles is because in the original brand split, Triple H didn't want the Intercontinental title. He felt it was beneath him, because they were going to build the one show around the Intercontinental title and the other show around the world title. And Levesque said, no. We have to create it, and that's when they brought in the World Heavyweight title.
Right, which he won by Eric Bischoff handing it to him.
right.
Eric Bischoff said, here, you're the champion. And Triple H went, I'm the champion. And he lifted over his head, and the rest is history.
Yeah, now we've had this splintered world title lineage in the company with 3 or 4 or 5 different versions of the world title, which is very stupid when you think about it.
I hate it. Yeah, I've always hated it. So occasionally they'll make it. What they'll do is they'll make it one for a little bit, and then they'll get gun shy, and then they'll make another one again. Because that's how this undisputed was supposed to be. Oh, it's one that can go to both brands, and then within months it's just like, actually we need another one now. Never mind.
Yeah, we gotta do another one. Yeah, gotta do another one. Gotta have another world title.
And now every brand has 5 titles, I think, at this point. Like there's, I'll give them a little bit of credit. It is perfectly split down the middle now. Every single
symmetrical.
Yeah. I do at least appreciate that that every brand has. You know, it's like you have your world heavyweight title on Raw, your women's world title, IC, women's IC, tag. You know, every single show has that. So that's cool.
It's symmetrical, but I don't appreciate it. I think it's a bunch of fucking horse shit.
There's too many.
That's what I think.
Come on, you're not excited about Lyra Valkyria as the inaugural WWE Women's Intercontinental Champion? Come on.
I mean, the reality is I don't care about anything they do, but if I did care, I would think it's fucking stupid that they have to have, what are you, Robert De Niro, an equal amount of blueberries in each month. You have to have an equal amount of, men's and women's. You have to have a women's United States title. You have to have that. Really? You have to have 2 sets of tag team champions. And do they have 2 sets of tag team champions? They do,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, Raw and SmackDown.
And 2 sets of women's tag team champions? Do they have that too?
Let me see. I don't know off the top of my head if they do.
Have that.
I don't think. Well, maybe they don't have that. No, they don't, because they still have. Okay, so they still have a women's tag team title that is open. That is on both brands. You do have a men's and women's speed champion.
That's right.
Though. So the only one you don't have is you only have 1 women's tag team.
So they're going to do that. They're going to have 2 women's tag team
eventually at some point. Yeah. So. Can you imagine what that's going to look like? That division of 4 teams. Yeah.
People will start chirping about it. Someone's going to notice that and then start complaining about it. So then they're going to do it. But you can eliminate. I don't know. This is a pointless conversation.
It's really
it doesn't
dumb,
matter.
Yeah. Who cares?
Their fan base doesn't care. Their fan base likes the fact that
Lyra Valkyria deserves it, Joe. Lyra Valkyria deserves it. She deserves it.
They like it.
Chelsea Green deserves it. So you know what? Great. Give Chelsea Green the Women's Intercontinental Championship.
That modern fan base likes it. But they'll bury AEW for having a lot of titles.
Correct.
The same people will complain about the existence of like the Continental title. But they love that WWE has, I think, literally 19 titles.
Somewhere on there. We counted it a couple weeks ago, but
I think it's 19. I think it'll be 20 when they add the second women's title. Because 19, counting NXT. Who are the current speed champions?
I believe one Dragon Lee is the men's. The women's, I think it's Candice LeRae, but let me...
Yeah, I think you're right.
Let me double check if it's Candice LeRae. Speed women's... God damn it. I was hoping Google would give me the result right away. It is Candice LeRae is the speed women's champion.
I'm into that title reign. I'm into that.
You catch the speed on X, the Everything app?
I am into that Candice LeRae speed title reign.
Yeah, I knew you were.
It's been great.
Dragon Lee, too, one of the best luchadors in the world.
Isn't the joke like he never wrestles anymore?
Yeah, I don't know.
So what do they do? Like, speed's not on a schedule? Like, it's not like every Tuesday on X, the Everything app? Like, when is it?
I thought it was, but am I wrong?
I think I saw people complaining that Dragon Lee never wrestles anymore.
No.
Let's see if I can find.
Sure. I know he beat Andrade for the title, which, by the way.
Yeah, well.
How's your territory doing, Andrade? How's that going?
Yeah.
How's that going for you, buddy? But
Dragon Lee has not wrestled in this calendar year or in this 2025.
Oh, he's a month out. Yeah, he hasn't wrestled in the last month.
He hasn't. He won the speed title on November 15th and hasn't had another speed title match since. So, yeah. That's.
Also, he beat Andrade for the title. He hasn't defended it since?
I don't think they do it anymore.
I thought speed aired every single week. Does it not?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think it's just dead.
Oh. What the hell do they have speed championships for?
And I don't think it was weekly because.
I thought it was. Is it not?
I think way back in the beginning it might have been. But Andrade was wrestling like every other month with that thing. If you look it up.
All right. You know what? We got to get to the bottom of this. Here's every speed card this calendar year. You ready? Speed 50 kicked off the year, January 3rd. Candice LeRae, Natalya went to a time limit draw, 5-minute time limit draw on WWE Speed. Natalya said, that's not going to work for me, brother. We'll go to the draw. We're going Broadway. We're going Broadway. 5 minutes. In this case, it's a 5-minute Broadway, but it's a Broadway nonetheless. So Natalya, Candice LeRae, that was Speed 50. Speed 51 was Chad Gable versus Charlie Dempsey for the number one contendership. There's a number one contendership tournament going on right now. So this was the semifinal. Chad Gable moves on, defeating Charlie Dempsey. Speed 52 from the 17th. Chris Sabin defeated Grayson Waller to move on in the Speed tournament. That was another semifinal match. And now, spoiler alert, I don't know if this is this hasn't broadcast yet, but Chris Sabin versus Chad Gable for the Speed number one contendership tournament finals. So at some point, one of these men will have to face Dragon Lee.
What about Speed 2 Cruise Control with Jason Patrick?
I love that movie. I loved the Speed movies as a kid, man. I don't know why. I fucking loved. Especially Speed 2 Cruise Control. I don't know why I like Speed 2.
Why?
I don't know.
Nobody likes
Speed
2 Cruise Control.
I was dumb. I don't know.
Why did Sandra Bullock come back for that?
I don't know. I think that's why I liked it. I always had the hots for Sandra Bullock even as a kid, so I was like, good for her. Good for her coming back. But in hindsight, like when Keanu was out, like you got to be out, right?
Got to be out. You can't come back with Jason Patrick.
That's like a Major League 2 thing where like once Wesley's out, I'm sorry, I think you got to, if you're Charlie Sheen, you got to say, yeah,
I don't know. Snipes was the only one. Like everyone else came back.
But everybody else wasn't like Tom Berger. He had nothing else going on. Corbin Burnson had nothing else going on. I think Charlie had enough to do at that point. No, I think Charlie could have gotten out of there. I think he should have bounced. I guess Haspert was still there. Yeah.
They were all there except for Snipes. And I'm going to give those guys a pass because it's only one guy that didn't come back.
Okay.
With Speed.
What? Speed 2 Cruise Control, please. Call it by its full name.
No, with Speed, at the end of Speed, Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock are basically fucking on that tarmac.
Yes, they are. Hell yeah, they are.
They're going at it hot and heavy.
Loved it. Loved it as a kid.
Annie, and whatever his name was. They're going at it on that tarmac with her Wildcat tattoo. And
yeah, hell yeah. Jack, I believe it was Jack, I believe was his name.
That's right. So they basically, that movie ends. They're fucking.
They're
during
consummating.
those credits.
They're consummating that relationship for sure.
They're like, we just rode this bus.
They trauma bonded. They trauma bonded over this horrific thing that happened, and they were like, we're both hot. Let's fuck right now. Like
we're
fucking
hot,
now.
We're fucking horny. We survived this ordeal. We drove around LA. We drove around this this tarmac for 45 minutes. We earned a fuck, and we're going to fuck right in front of you. And we don't care. We dare you to throw us in jail. We dare you. That's going to be a bad look. So I can't buy that just a few years later.
Yeah, local couple kills terrorists, survives, moment, but thrown in jail for public,
indecency.
Public indecency, public displays of affection or whatever. Come on, we're not throwing
because he slips his fucking pecker underneath that skirt and gives it to her. They weren't creating a porn scene. He just, that was clearly zipper down, panties to the side. That wasn't something like they weren't putting on a performance. That was animalistic sex. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Okay, that was zipper down, slide the panties over. Maybe no panties if she was a naughty girl. I don't know.
No. She was a
Annie's not a naughty girl.
No. I don't think that was implied at all. No. She was.
I'm ruining Rich's fantasy.
Yeah,
of
please,
Annie
come on.
Is what I'm doing.
Please stop here. She was just on the bus going to, I forget where she was going to, but she was just on the bus. Come on. Not that naughty.
If Annie's a no panty bad girl, it's going to ruin the last 25 years of Rich's existence. He can't deal with it.
It's going to be destroyed.
He can't deal with it, But all right, so that's zipper down, panties to the side, not red panties, because did I ever tell you, I think I've said it. I had a girlfriend when I was a teenager whose mother, right in front of me, told her daughter, red panties are for whores.
Wow.
It was so awkward. Like,
you're like, all right, let's go to the drive-in.
Red panties are for whores, is what this girl's mother said. So Annie, I'm sure they were cotton white panties. I don't want to ruin you anymore, Rich.
Maybe blue. You know.
Oh, he's got it. He's got a whole fantasy.
Maybe blue.
Rich knows exactly what he wants Annie to be rocking under that little white skirt. So anyway, it wasn't like lewd sex. They're just having that animalistic, and it was like under a minute too.
Oh, it was done. Yeah. That was just, we need to get this out.
Fast.
Both of us need to get this out. Whatever's in us needs to be out of us.
No holding back. So my point is, after all that, you can't come back a couple of years later and convince me that flame was out, and all of a sudden she's hanging out with Jason Patrick. You see what I'm saying now?
I got you.
So I can't buy Speed 2 Cruise Control. I just can't buy it. I can buy that Willem Dafoe has put Annie in the same predicament that Dennis Hopper put her in.
It's pretty ridiculous in hindsight.
That I could buy, okay, on this yacht. What I cannot buy is that she broke up with Keanu Reeves because, I don't know, he wanted to watch the Laker game instead of take her out on Friday nights. You know what I'm saying? And nothing would have blown out that flame. So I'm sorry, I'm not buying Speed.
I think that flame could have gone out because I think that they trauma bonded again, but they didn't really have that much in common. You know what I mean? You can go. What happened is they started dating, and then he wanted to watch the Lakers on Friday, and she wanted to go to a show, and that was it. That was the end of it. You know what I mean? So I could buy that would end. You know, once the animalistic sex is over between Annie and Jack, then when they get down to it and talk. And they talk at the dinner table. There's not a whole lot there. You know what I mean? They trauma bonded. They obviously had animalistic sex for probably some weeks after, of course. But then, once they, like you said, Annie comes home and she thinks, she comes home from work and we're going to go to a show or, go out to dinner and Jack's in his underwear watching the Lakers. You know what I mean?
Right. And she's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, I'm watching the Lakers. What do you think I'm doing? Maybe she was a Clipper fan. And, that would have posed some problems, too.
That's true. Right? He's like, I'm trying to think of the era, but I think we're in like prime, like Del Harris. He's like, I got to see if Del's going to get this team to the finals. We signed Shaq. Like, what the hell?
This is like the mid-90s.
Yeah, we're Cedric Sabalas. I think this is going to work. I think with Cedric Sabalas and Nick Van Exel, I think we got the right combination here.
Yeah, look, I'm sorry.
We need
Eldon
Campbell. Eldon Campbell needs the ball a couple more times a game. We need to get it to the big man, and then I don't know. Eddie Jones has got to pass the ball a little bit more, and then we'll be good to go.
Actually, she's probably a Suns fan. Wildcat, Rich.
Yeah.
Arizona. So she went to Arizona.
Did she?
It was a big plot point in the movie. She had the Wildcat tattoo.
Oh, that's right. Right.
And he asked her about it, remember? And then that became a.
I think she's a Suns fan. Yeah, that would cause some tension for sure.
Probably a Suns fan.
Jason Kidd era Suns.
Especially if it was like Raja Bell and Kobe era.
Right.
Forget it. But they didn't make it to them because Jason Patrick was 1997.
Yeah. It was also a long time after. That's a lot of years to decide, all right, let's fucking do Speed again.
It's not really. It's 3 years.
That's a long time, though. I feel like if you were going to pounce on the Speed.
Oh, from that point, I thought you meant a long time, like, they would have broke up in 6 months.
No. I mean, to like in 1997, be like, all right, what do you guys have? Like, what ideas do we have for a movie? And someone's like, I don't know, Speed again? And they're like, fine, yeah, sure, Speed again.
That's why she didn't need to come back for this. Because
that's where I agree with you that it was enough time gap between Speed 1 and Speed 2 that she should have said, no, I'm good. Because if it was like 1995 and they're like, we're running this thing right back. Like it was a huge hit. We're gonna get right back on the Speed train again. We're gonna do this again. But it was like 3 years after, and you don't have Keanu anymore. She should have said no. She absolutely should have said no. And she was doing good stuff by that point too, right? She was already in.
To me, it is clearly a project that was beneath her.
Yes.
At that point, she shouldn't have come back. And again. I don't buy that she would have been out of that relationship with the first guy. And I think
you're stuck in this relationship.
I'm sorry. It was too hot and heavy. And I feel like
what were they talking about though? You know what I mean? Like once you get past the sex show, what is really there in that relationship?
What do you mean? They bonded on the fucking...
No, that's trauma bonding, man. That's not the same.
You
that's
can
not
talk about that bus ride for 20 years. What are you talking about?
No. See, that does not last. It doesn't last.
They were vibing, though.
They were, but...
They were going to blow into a million pieces if that bus went to 49 miles per hour, and they were still vibing. That don't tell you something?
There was a spark there for sure. I'm not denying that there was a spark, but
what I'm saying is Speed 2 Cruise Control. It should have been like Hillary Swank or something, not or pick your late 90s dark-haired actress in place. I'll go with Swank. You can pick someone else.
Juliana Margulis could have come onto the. Sure, she was doing ER at that time. That was beneath her too. So she had better things to do. That's a
major motion picture. I mean,
yeah.
Juliana.
That was my other. I loved her in the 90s, man. I now realize my path in life because I watched ER not that long ago. And I was with the nurse watching it, and I was like, I always thought she was really hot. And I'm looking at her, and I'm like, that's basically you. I just realized that. That's like a curly-haired, sassy nurse. And I turned to look, and I'm like, okay. Well,
yeah, God, this makes sense now.
I had a path in life, and I got there. I got there eventually. Because in the 90s, I was like, whoa, look at this, Spitfire here on ER. Like, she's, she's getting things done, doing things, curly hair, doesn't care how it looks, brunette, curly hair, nice olive skin. Boom, there we go. But yeah,
how about Speed 2 Cruise Control starring Jennifer Love Hewitt? How about that?
Well, that would have, hey, at that time
with those fucking jugs of hers. How about that?
Yeah, that would have been great.
Yeah,
hell
that would
yeah,
have worked.
I think she was too. I think she's too young at that time. She's a little too young at that point, right?
97.
Let me see how old she would have been in 1997. We have nothing to talk about, by the way, if you're wondering. Oh, she was already showing the Hooters already out at that time because whatever movie she was in, she was 18 at that point. So that would have been right on the line.
Oh, a little young.
Right on the line there. But it wasn't that long after that. We were like by 1998, 1999, those things were everywhere.
Yeah. Those cans were just
everywhere.
Just sweater meat all over the place. Couldn't avoid it. Yeah, I guess she would have been a little young for the role.
Yeah, the role doesn't fit. Yeah, she was 18 at that time. It doesn't.
Well, now hold on. Now, Annie in Speed was a college student.
Sure. Okay. All right. You're right. And she could have been a freshman. That's 19.
Could have been a freshman.
College. You're right. She was supposed to be a college student. She was in her mid 30s. What the fuck? Right.
So
the 90s were so weird when they would have like high schoolers. You're like, that man is 37 years old.
Do we have to cancel Speed for the 30-year-old cop fucking the college student on the tarmac at the end of the movie?
You're right. Shit.
I regret to inform you, but Speed is canceled.
Speed is canceled. The power dynamics were way off. The power dynamics were way off.
It's over.
Yikes.
Yikes. Big yikes. We can't watch Speed anymore.
Shit.
Big
right.
Yikes, Rich.
I didn't think about the power dynamics in play. Yeah.
Could we not, with Speed, please?
Do better.
Could we just not when it comes to Speed?
Right.
Okay. Keanu was like 8 years older than her. I mean, could we not? He clearly took advantage of her.
Yeah, shit.
So maybe we could get a little JLH on that boat at 18, right? I mean, maybe she wasn't too young. I don't know.
It was a different time, for sure. Yeah, those boundaries would be yeah.
Who would have fit in 1997 for that role? It's like, who would have been a comparable type of star?
1997 top actresses. Let's
right. Maybe, Debbie Mazar, not a big enough star. Maybe not a big enough star. Could she carry that role? I don't think she could.
Best actresses in 1997. We got Judi Dench. You're not doing Judi Dench. Kim Basinger. She's
no. Let's do Judi Dench. I like that idea.
That's old. Yeah, that's not bad.
Speed 2 Cruise Control with Judi Dench and Jason Patrick.
Little old, but that's good. Then the power dynamics are kind of reversed in that sense. She's kind of the experienced,
She would have been 63 years old.
Right, pretty old.
And Jason Patrick was at the peak of his studliness at that point, right? Jason Patrick.
Right.
He was born in. He was 33, and really at the peak of his powers, 67. Maybe he likes that shit, Rich. You know, he likes that cougar stuff. I don't know. Get Judi Dench in there. We did it. You don't have to read any further.
There it is. Yeah, we got Penelope Cruz too, which might be a good. She was up and
she'd
coming.
be on a cruise,
right?
Like these old bags. That's who goes on these cruises. So that's
Judi
perfect.
Dench, yeah.
Right. Judi Dench and is replacing Sandra Bullock in Speed 2 Cruise Control. I think it makes a lot of sense.
With her white hair,
husband,
her short white hair. Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah, like her husband could have been Wilford Brimley, but he's like locked in the cabin, right? And she's up there with Patrick steering the boat. And they trauma bond, and it just happens. It just fucking happens, Rich.
Their therapist, they've gone to like marriage counseling, and the counselor was like, "You have to try new things." You know what I mean? You got to that could be an early scene, like the spark isn't quite there in the relationship anymore, and they're like, "Well, I mean, you got to explore new avenues, try new things." She's like, "Hey, maybe this is it. This is that thing.
Maybe this young Rod is the kind of new thing I need to try." Right. You know,
He'll
she hasn't
understand.
been turned out like that since the '60s, and she's. Wilford Brimley with his diabetes, he can't get it done anymore. So she's, I like it.
That's a good movie. That's a good movie. Yeah, it's gonna
good movie.
It
makes up for the cancellation of Speed,
for sure. Yeah,
and it makes up for the canceled Speed because the age difference goes the other way now.
Right, and nobody ever cares if it's the woman has the power dynamics over the.
Right. So it can make up for that, for the sins of the original Speed. So,
someone said Jordan Smith said Catherine Zeta-Jones too sexy.
She's got the accent too.
Yeah, it wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have worked.
You need like an all-American girl.
Yeah. She's too exotic, too sexy. Like that's not.
You can't. She's got the accent and everything.
You got to have some dirt on the face. Like Sandra Bullock had dirt on the face during the Speed thing. She's sweating. You know what I mean? Like
you need the classic all-American girl next door like Judi Dench. That's right, what you need for the role.
That's what it is.
Okay. So that's what we're going with.
WWE World Heavyweight Title, Gunther Jey Uso. What do you got for me, Joe?
Well, I think that main event Jay
finally in the main event. Good for him.
Is it finally in the main event? If he can't have a great match with this guy, I mean, we're done here, right? If he can't have a great match with this, but I will say this: there was some odd match structures on the last Saturday night's main event. None of them really conducive to having good matches, right?
No.
So I'm curious if this is how this Saturday night's main event will be presented, or if they'll switch it up. You know what I mean? So I don't know what kind of matches we're going to get because we had very simple match structures last time. So, what do you think? New world heavyweight champion?
No. Oh God, no. No. Right. Gunther's going to win this match. And I'm sure there'll be something nefarious happens or it builds up a Jey Uso thing for Mania or whatever. But no, Gunther's definitely retaining that title. There's no way he loses it. I would assume that Braun Breaker beats Sheamus, but who knows? Maybe Sheamus beats him for the title and they do a rematch at Mania. Anything's possible in there. And then Nia Jax is definitely losing the women's title or losing the match for the women's title against Rhea Ripley. And then Jacob Fatu is hopefully mercifully beating Braun Strowman. I think that'd be insane if Braun Strowman beat him. But yeah, I don't know. I wonder how much on the nostalgia they're going to hit. I know Jesse's going to be there. I know Hogan is presumably going to be there. This is a weird one because that first one had so much media blitz to it and so much promotion, and this one just doesn't feel that way. So I'm very curious how the ratings go for this one and how things look ultimately for the show because it does not feel like they put a whole lot behind this one.
Look, there's going to be a big dip in the rating.
Oh, for sure.
I don't think there's any doubt. There's not as much promotional muscle behind this one.
No.
I don't think there's no, last time I had Cody and Jesse.
No, it had pay-per-view main event level
blitz.
matches. Yeah, I mean, Roman versus Solo and Punk and Seth and there was a lot or not Punk and Seth, Punk's out the Raw Netflix, but Cody. Cody, it had a lot of
the Ventura, the whole Ventura media blitz and everything.
Right.
And this has nothing. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if a good chunk of our audience who isn't necessarily locked into this company wasn't even aware that this was happening until we brought it up.
Right.
So, whereas the last Saturday night's main event, you couldn't avoid the push for that one.
Well, we thought it was big enough to do an instant reaction live for, and I never, ever even thought of doing this one. You know what I mean? Never even considered doing it for this one.
Right. Yeah. So.
By the
Anyway,
way,
that's,
never look up Cirque du Soleil on the internet, because every single one of my website ads on every social media platform is just Cirque du Soleil. Yeah. They want me to buy a ticket so badly. So,
yeah. Well,
not going to happen because you told me not to go to the Michael Jackson one. But anyway,
the other one's
the other one's fine. Okay, just not the Michael Jackson one.
Just the Michael Jackson. I strictly vote no on the Michael.
Now,
Jackson.
Are you an anti-Michael Jackson guy? Was it the Michael Jackson aspect of it, or was it just
no? That had nothing to do with it. It's just the show was bad. Like I don't mind Michael Jackson. It was just the show was bad.
Okay,
like
all right.
It was a Cirque show built around Michael Jackson music, but it wasn't like when I go to a Cirque show, I want to see some fucking flips. I want to see people doing shit where if they fuck it up, they're gonna die in front of me. You know what I'm saying? This one was weird. It wasn't like that kind of Cirque show. It was basically they were just dancing.
Oh yeah. No, I want give me the fucking flips, man.
They were doing like athletic dancing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like the kind of dancing no one like we can't do, but it wasn't the Cirque shit where guys are like contorting their bodies through rings of fire and doing flips and fucking, you know what I'm talking about. They weren't doing Cirque shit. And it was very disappointing from that standpoint. I didn't care that it was like the Michael Jackson aspect of it had nothing to do with it. Like that's kind of a interesting idea, right? Like Cirque set to Michael Jackson hits.
That's why I said it seems cool, but if they weren't doing Cirque stuff during it, then yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not home. I'm not spinning my bad record every Thursday either. Like I'm not some huge Michael Jackson fan, but that
you didn't do Thriller. You went bad. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have my off the wall vinyl that I'm playing every weekend, but I don't mind. It's like, I don't have any distaste for Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
His music. Don't cancel me again.
Show is canceled. I regret to inform you. Show is canceled. Michael Jackson. You know what's funny about Michael Jackson? Nobody ever. It was like he got the pass of all passes, where everyone's just like, whatever. It's Michael. Like, fine. Because I was always like, no one cares about Michael Jackson. No, like even during like the peak of everybody, and I was like, no, we're just gonna let Michael go. Nobody cares. They're like, whatever. Like he got free. R. Kelly was the same way too until very recently. Like I was waiting. I was like, when is the hammer going to come down on fucking R. Kelly? Like what's happening here? But eventually it did come down on R. Kelly. So that I don't
think. Yeah, we've talked about that. I don't think you could listen to R. Kelly anymore in decent company, right?
Right.
Do that.
But Michael, you absolutely can. Nobody cares.
You can pump the MJ. I think
there's a fucking Cirque show about Michael Jackson right now. Nobody cares.
Good point.
Nobody cares.
Good point. Yeah. They're not making a Cirque show around Diddy.
I don't think Diddy. I don't think Diddy's getting a Cirque show anytime soon. But
no, where they squirt you with baby oil when you're walking in instead of taking pictures of you with the paparazzi, right? They just got bottles of Johnson & Johnson baby oil that they're squirting you down with, like you're in a Brazzers fucking video, poolside with the fucking baby oil. Yeah, you're right. So you could do a Cirque show with Michael Jackson. It's a good point. Why isn't
he's never people just decided that we're good. We just like Michael too much. The hits are just too hitty. We're good.
Yeah,
we can't cancel the guy.
What else it was? It was before we were really canceling people when his stuff happened. That's the thing.
Yeah, he
died like 2009 or something, right? He just missed it because it was like 2013, 2014.
Yeah.
If you got canceled around that time today, you're fucked. Now you're done. You could get canceled in like before that and survive it from that standpoint and still have a Cirque show. So I think that's why. We were just talking about someone else too who just missed the cancellation window. Who I can't remember who it was. It was a few weeks ago, right? Where we're like,
yeah, who was that? I know
if that was 5 years later, they would have been fucked. Remember? But it's like,
who was that?
Because it happened. I forget too. It was like 2007 though, and they're like, all right, they get a pass for whatever reason.
Oh man! All right, let's quickly, a little bit of ratings talk here. Let's get into the ratings of all of the various different shows. So Raw on Netflix. We'll start with Raw on Netflix. So I wrote about this a little bit behind the paywall, flagshippatreon.com, but it is not behind a paywall. It is free to read. All you have to do is sign up for flagshippatreon.com. Because yes, we do free stuff on the Patreon from time to time. So if you go to flagshippatreon.com and sign up for free, you will get content as well. You'll also get notified when new content gets posted, and you can say, hey, that sounds pretty good. That looks pretty good. I will upgrade now. But you are going to get some free stuff as well. Plus, Patreon will also give you a little bit of samples here and there. Sometimes, occasionally, Patreon will say, we recommend some posts to get pumped up, and Patreon will then send you and say, hey, you know what? We'll give you this post for free, and this post for free, and this post for free. And maybe that'll make you subscribe. So there's a benefit to subscribing for free. So make sure you get on there, flagshippatreon.com, and subscribe for free if you're not on the $5 or $10 tiers. And you can read a couple of the things we do every single week. You can see some bonus audio, and also listen to some bonus audio, and also see what else we're posting throughout the week. But I wrote about Raw on Netflix's rating, which, by the way, this is a little weird for how we're doing this. I don't know. Have we talked about it on the show yet? How the Netflix stuff is kind of working. So there's this Tadum, a website that's Netflix's internal stats website that has views based off the top 10 global TV shows and movies every single week. Now, the problem is it's a week behind. So we're looking at all this stuff kind of a week behind. So we basically last week got the debut episode numbers, and this week we got last week's numbers. So this was the first post the second show on Netflix, if you want to say. The Penta debut show is the one we have the numbers for now. So the very first week, the debut on Netflix, 5.9 million global views in the first week. 26 different countries. Raw was the top 10 television show in those 26 different countries, okay? This show now, January 13th, 2025, global views dropped to 3.7 million. So a 2.2 million decrease, 37%, from the previous week, and placed in the top 10 in only 7 countries: Bolivia, Canada, Ecuador, Guatemala, Mexico, United Kingdom, United States. It was 4th in the U.S. last week, the January 13th, 2025 episode. So, Joe, I ask you, your thoughts on that number of original Netflix debut, 5.9 million. We go from January 13th, the following week, 3.7 million. 37% decrease week over week. 2.2 million people are out after the first week.
Hey, look, I thought 5.9 million global views for the debut was a kind of a lousy number, like and underwhelming. 3.7 global now, not
global.
US.
Global, whole world.
So, and I don't think we're done leveling off. If it follows the patterns of traditional television, we know that it's going to level off for another week or two before it finds its settle point. Right. So that's number one. We're going to go lower than this. I don't know how you can spin that into me in a positive. The whole idea behind this was to greatly expand the viewership of the show. Maybe it will if people watch. I don't think people are going to binge Monday Night Raw the way they binge fucking Severance season 2. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of a different kind of deal. But the other was, I think people kind of nailed it when they said, the debut didn't set up anything for the future. It was loaded with a bunch of big stars that you weren't ever going to see on the show again. And they didn't set anything up. They didn't build anything. And I think, I'm not saying that it wouldn't have dropped to the same degree, but maybe it would have dropped a little less if you would have hooked some people with, all right, here's John Cena, but here's what he's going to do next week. Now, I understand you can't have Cena there every week, but you get the idea. Come for The Rock and John Cena and Hulk Hogan, but, maybe, then you see CM Punk and Seth Rollins, and if we set up a big angle and maybe you'll hook some people. They didn't do anything to set up anything for the future.
A lot of the stories were ended on that debut Raw, which I thought we all thought was kind of weird. It was like you more or less blew off like 4 or 5 different angles. And God, with The Rock, you blow off about 5 angles in one thing. But more than that, it was like everybody else kind of had their final match with their longtime foe on that debut episode of Raw, and then you were kind of left with, okay, what's next week? And it's like, well, Chad Gable's going to face a luchador, and that was kind of the hook for the next week. Was Penta's debut was kind of the only real thing they put any muscle behind promoting it. Yeah,
and so that has a little something to do with it too. But they were going to level off regardless, and I think we're going to go even lower than here, and then we'll see where kind of it settles, because I think that's how it, and now what can throw kind of a wrench in that is as we ramp up the build to WrestleMania on television, Raw would traditionally have their, plus with football over and then the build up to WrestleMania that Raw's numbers would go up. And then people like John Cena will be back and The Rock will see, and, as of right now, no. But And then we see if Netflix follows the same patterns that TV did in terms of more viewers popping in around WrestleMania time. And then the post WrestleMania lull after that. And then the fall comes and the football lull after that. We don't know. This is all uncharted territory. So we don't know if Netflix is going to follow those same patterns that TV did.
Yeah, I'll definitely say that number it's not high. 3.7 million globally that's
sounds
rough.
Really low.
It does. And that's my thought is that's a pretty low number globally, because that's it's up from what they were doing on TV, but for God's sakes, the TV was just America, and they were sold the bill of goods that this Netflix thing was going to make it so it's so much easier for so many more people to watch Raw, and it's like, a couple more people checked out the debut, and then a lot of people said, I'm good. And now it's kind of, so we'll see where the next couple weeks go. Like if the next week puts us right back, if it's the next week is like 3.2 million, and then we kind of hover around 3 million for a couple of weeks leading up to Mania, that'll kind of let us know what that level is going to be. But I'm with you. I think we probably haven't leveled off all the way, but we're going to be buoyed up, like you said, propped up by WrestleMania. So I could see them hovering around the 3 to 3.5 million up through Mania, and then after that, who the hell knows? That post-Mania drop and that post-Mania lull, we'll see. But I don't know. I don't know if I'm super, super excited about 3.7 million people watching on Netflix every single week, but I don't know.
I feel like, you look at Dynamite and the television ratings really haven't changed at all since they rolled out Max. And we've had all these people telling us, when it goes to Max, that's where I'm going to watch it because I get a better picture, or I can get it without commercials, or I can get it with the better sound, and I have, my setup in my house. All these reasons that people were going to watch it on Max instead of TBS. And the TBS ratings essentially haven't changed in a meaningful way at all. So what we know about Dynamite is that it hasn't hurt their television ratings really at all with them being simulcast on Max. Now, we have no clue how many people are watching on Max. Tony Khan claims they're not sharing that with him. I don't believe him. But WBD doesn't release those numbers. AEW is not going to release those numbers. They claim they don't even have them. My suspicion is that if we saw the number of people watching Dynamite on Max, they would be shockingly low. Like however many people you think are watching on Max, I think the real number would shock you how low it is. That's what I think. I think almost nobody's watching this show on Max. I was firmly of the belief that there was a statistically insignificant number of people who fit that description of they didn't have TBS, they like AEW enough to seek it out on streams or their friend's house or whatever, who also have Max, who now we're going to be able to watch it legally every week. That is a lot of different boxes to tick, right? To create all these new normal viewers. I never bought that it was going to be a significant amount. And now what we also know is there's not a significant amount of people who are choosing to watch, who have TBS, who are choosing to watch on Max. That's not happening. So I think if we saw the Max numbers for AEW, we'd be stunned regarding how low they are.
Yeah, I could see them being in like the 5 figures. You know what I mean? Like,
yes, I
10 to 30,000 people maybe watching it. You know what I mean? I think it's probably on that range. Agree. Yeah.
And that wouldn't stun me at all. And I think those numbers would stun other people.
Because guess what? They are giving him those numbers, but he's just not releasing those numbers. Or they're not releasing those numbers.
I don't believe for 1 second that they're not sharing those numbers. That's ridiculous.
That's a bad partnership. Yeah.
But I just feel like, and it's a point that Dave Meltzer makes all the time, that when it comes to these streamers, they want there to be vagueness and they don't want to tell you what a lot of this stuff is doing because the perception is always going to be bigger in people's minds than what the reality probably is. So they'd rather let people think that all of this stuff, and now I'm not just talking about the wrestling, is just crushing it on streaming when the reality is most of it isn't. The only numbers that ever get released are like NFL numbers, which everyone knows are going to be it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like who cares? It's the NFL. I just don't think these streaming numbers are ever going to be quite as impressive as people think they are. and this 3.7 million, and I believe we're going down from here. Worldwide kind of shows that. I think that it's possible, probable even, that there's people who used to watch Raw on USA who are no longer watching it now, either because they don't have Netflix or because it's just a break of routine, where their routine was putting on USA every week, and switching to the app and all that is just a break of routine, and they don't, or they think to themselves, oh, I could watch it on Wednesday. It'll be there for me. And then they're not watching it. I think there's probably a segment of people who fit that description, who aren't watching it all anymore, just because it broke their 30-year routine. So, I'm done being stunned at how low some of these numbers are, because I just think that I've always been a skeptic of streaming numbers, and I just think streaming numbers are generally going to be lower than people think. I think there's so many people who have this idea that the whole world is just streaming everything, and I just don't think it's true.
Yeah, because they are.
I think people overblow that.
Of course, always. Except for the NFL, because people will find a way. If there's a will, there's a way to watch the NFL.
That's the thing with the NFL. That's the difference between the NFL and WWE is people will fucking kill to find a way to watch the NFL games. They're not going to do that with this other stuff. They'll blow it off, but they're not going to miss their NFL. They're not going to do.
And that's why I'm fascinated. We've talked about this before when we talked about streaming. I'm fascinated to see how, because this year is really a weird one for a lot of sports, because I believe starting in 2025, NASCAR is going to be very segmented. Like, some stuff's going to be on this thing, and some stuff's going to be on this thing, and some stuff's going to be on Amazon, and some stuff's going to be here. And the NBA, obviously, they're going to be very segmented as well. They're not going to just be on TNT and ABC now. They're going to have some things on Amazon, some things on NBC. So it's going to be all over the place. And I am very curious to see what trends could follow, because everybody points, people followed the NFL onto Netflix. People followed the NFL on Amazon. Yeah, that's the fucking NFL, man. You're never going to stop that juggernaut. People are going to find a way. Are people going to move heaven and earth to watch NASCAR? I don't know. Are people going to move heaven and earth to watch the NBA? Who knows? We're going to find out. So far, early returns for wrestling. Wrestling was kind of the guinea pig, and so far we're seeing, not really.
Not great. But I think that the other thing no one ever considers is it's not as if there's not competition when it comes to streaming either. I mean, sometimes I'll turn on my TV and look at the 48 apps that I have on there. You know what I'm saying? And then what happens? I end up on YouTube. You know what I mean? I end up not watching anything, and I end up just watching mindless YouTube videos for the hour that I have to kill.
Yeah.
Instead of watching something, because there's also sort of you get paralyzed by choice.
Oh, of course. How many of us pop onto whatever app it is and fucking scroll around for 25 minutes, and then you just fall asleep, or you turn something on and you fall asleep 5 minutes later. Yeah.
Right. Or you don't watch anything, or you fall asleep, or you end up on YouTube. And it's like that happens all the time. And you get it's just there's too many options. And, so I think that becomes a factor too. And I just, no one's coming home from work and plopping down on the couch and by default putting on their favorite app to see what's going on Apple TV Plus. No one's doing that. But like when people would come home and turn on their TV compulsively and see what's going on the TV. Like, I just think it's the apps create a totally different kind of pattern and habit. It's not the same as when these same people had cable. So I think that hurts too, in that, the whole streaming thing is it's there when I want it. And I think that is probably for a lot of people disrupting their patterns and habits when it comes to watching the weekly wrestling show that they were making a habit of watching every single Monday at 8:00. So, and then as we know, once that habit is broken, it's easier to never go back. I talk about that with Dynamite all the time. As the quality of the show dissipates over the last couple of years, you skip it this week, you skip it next week. By week 3, you're not thinking about it anymore. You've learned that you can live without Dynamite. Well, the same thing's going to happen with Raw for people who are too lazy to pick up their remote and switch over to that app. And if people think that sounds silly, everyone listening is too lazy sometimes to pick up that remote and go search out an app. I know I am, and I have all the apps. So we're in the beginning of this, but so far the pattern looks very similar to the TV pattern where it's going to drop, and then maybe we'll see where it lands.
Absolutely. As far as Dynamite, as you mentioned, no real effect so far from streaming on Max. They this week 655,000 viewers, a 0.19 in the 18 to 49, ranked 6th for the night on cable in 18 to 49. Number 1 was the Timberwolves Mavericks game on ESPN that had a 0.37 in the 18 to 49. So that is down a little bit from last week, about 4% week over week from last week's number in total viewers, and it's up 6% in the 18 to 49 demo, but mostly kind of just whatever. Normal ass numbers they've been doing for a while.
Yeah, these numbers aren't notable in any way. It's just, we'll see.
Yeah, so far in 2025, they've hovered around 600,000, a little bit over. Nothing over 700,000 so far, I don't think. And that's pretty much where they were, from the last half of 2024. If you look at the numbers, last half of 2024, basically their peak was, in obviously their peak was February of last year, but they had a brief upticks here and there. But for the most part, from August on, they've kind of were just around 700,000, and they fell below that in October, and they kind of have hovered around 700,000 to 600,000 since then. So that reflects our point that, like, you look at total viewers and it's almost no different from what it was in October, November, December of last year. That was before the Max thing. Now they're on Max, but the TV numbers are
right.
The graph looks the same.
And all that tells you is the idea that a bunch of people who had access to TBS were going to jump to watch it on Max instead. It didn't happen.
Yeah. The numbers don't reflect that. Yeah, the numbers don't reflect that at all. Collision actually had a decent-ish number last week. They averaged 342,000 viewers, a 0.10 in the 18 to 49 demo. That's a 1% increase week over week for the show, and a 20% increase in the key demo. Now, why I say that's a good number, because they were up against a fucking hell of a night. They were up against directly the Detroit Lions Washington Commanders game that had, Joe, we talk about how people are going to try to find their NFL no matter what. 34.58 million viewers and an 8.67 in the demo. 8.67 in the demo for the Lions Commanders. There was also college basketball, UFC prelims, and a few other sports things. But 34.58 million total viewers and an 8.67 in the demo for Lions Commanders. My God.
And the NFL playoffs as a whole have been down. Think about that. So, you can't. It's a juggernaut. They're going to get killed this week because they're head-to-head with Saturday night's main event. So Collision's going to get fucking destroyed. So we'll see what happens there compared to how they did last time against it. So.
And the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame case for Bailey grows this week with a pretty good number for NXT. NXT, she was on NXT confronting Cora Jade and Roxanne Perez. I know you watched it, so I don't know why you're asking what. I know you were big into this. Also, Obafemi versus Eddie Thorpe and Tony D'Angelo versus Ridge Holland. But this was the second largest viewership for NXT since October and the third highest since moving to the CW. 812,000 viewers and a 0.22 in the 18 to 49 demo for NXT.
You know what's funny? Did you see this? Somebody pointed this out to me today, that the quote-unquote Legental activity was out in full force this week.
Yes,
for
it
this NXT
was.
Number.
Yes, it was.
With many of them using the exact same copy-paste verbiage that they were sent in their little emails or whatever, and some of them mixing it up a little. But what was weird about this time around, and it was a lot of boxing reporters,
a lot of boxing guys, which is so weird that there's like boxing guys, and then people are like, you see a lot of times you'll see the replies and people are like, what? NXT, who cares? And it's like very weird.
They're boxing followers. But what TKO has done, the well has run dry on wrestling reporters, because the wrestling reporters have either realized, oh yeah, they're using me, or they've been shamed by us. I definitely think that has had an effect.
Oh, yeah.
With us shaming people every time. Or they've been shamed by followers as a trickle down because of us, right? Because now we've exposed this game and people are much wiser to it. And so anyway, there's not a lot of places to turn other than Shameless Cheese Board. So right around the time that they started using MMA people like Front Row Brian, they started using boxing people too. So they're kind of like using whoever they can get to get the tweets out there. Because as we've noted a million times, it doesn't matter if boxing writer, whoever, doesn't have a large reach. It gets picked up by people who do have reach. And that's and then it spreads from there.
That's the game. Yeah, that's the game.
But they would love to have people with reach. That's how they started
of course.
Using people with reach. But they can't get people with reach anymore. So, but my point here is they did it again this week. But what was weird and what was pointed out to me, they used the Fast Nationals, which were lower. They used the 777,000 number and the lower demo number.
I did see that because Raj Giri was like, whoa, NXT numbers were actually larger than what we reported earlier this week, which is
right.
Weird.
Because the Gentle activity put out the wrong fucking numbers. They put out the lower numbers. They done goofed because the real numbers were higher than the fucking propaganda numbers that they put out, which is like they never do that. You know what I mean?
That's
like,
WCW bullshit. That's the WCW used to promote. They'd have Tony Schiavone, talk about what the attendance number was, and it was actually lower than what they actually had in the building.
Yeah.
Is only WCW shit. Like only WCW would do something like that. But apparently, Legento occasionally can fall into that trap too.
Now, the quote-unquote Legento activity, because the new thing to dispute that I don't know why people fight so hard that WWE has well-oiled machine PR department.
Which is good, and they should, good. And that's good. That man's doing his job exactly how you're supposed to do it. Nobody is that's the thing we always have to reiterate with this. This is good. You should do this. The problem is the people that report it and regurgitate it, but the PR department should. MLW sends me everything. Every single thing that you see reported up at MLW, I get too. I just go, all right, well, I'm not going to post that, but thank you anyway for sending it to me.
Yeah.
But
yeah, so my point is, for some reason, their fans push back against this like it's not real. And the new argument that they use is that Chris Legento doesn't even really work in that department anymore, that he primarily works in talent relations. I'm not sure if he dropped. He did have both titles for a while, but allegedly he's working more on the public relations. But anyway, their counter argument is he doesn't even work in PR.
Okay,
so
great.
That's how you know.
Change the other guy's name then. To change it to who's ever named
That's
it.
the point. Like Legento activity is just the catch-all term for it that Rich Lata came up with, and it stuck because it was funny. And that doesn't mean that it's literally Chris Legento. He was never literally the way. It was his underlings doing it anyway. It was never literally him. It was just his department. But that's the counter argument they use now. Like, oh, it's all lies. He doesn't even work in PR, man. So that's why I say quote unquote Legento activity, because it's probably someone else pulling the strings now. But the idea obviously is still the same. But anyway, they fucked up this week and they fucking blasted out the wrong and lower number.
Whoops.
So that was dumb. But I guess somebody forgot that the Fast Nationals are always lower, and they're used to disparage competition, not to disparage yourself. They got to be more careful next time, Rich.
Yeah, whoever this new guy is, that's not Chris Legento, needs to
he's lost. Yeah.
needs to talk to
Probably
the expert.
Been fired already.
Yeah, he's got to talk to the expert and learn a thing or two about what's going on here. Anyway, so that's that. So that was NXT, and that was ratings talk. So a little bit there. All right, you want to get into. Let's go to total nonstop action. You want to talk Genesis 2025?
Got to talk about the Genesis. So we finally have a WrestleTix estimated 4,000 fans. It was tricky because it was mostly GA. There was a set amount of floor tickets that were completely sold out. But WrestleTix, obviously, with the whatever program they use, you can't account for. It's impossible to count GA, right? Because their program is counting seats that are no longer available on ticket maps. So whenever there's GA, it fucks up. But WrestleTix estimated 4,000, and now Cage Match has a number of 4,032. I don't know where that came from. So that's right in the ballpark of what WrestleTix estimated. It's only 32 tickets off. The point is, that's the biggest TNA attendance in God knows how long, years. They keep breaking their own attendance records ever since really Hard to Kill last year.
Yeah.
in Vegas where they did that crowd of, remember we talked about that crowd of 1,600 and we were like, wow, it's a massive crowd for them. Because the year before for pay-per-view, they were running places like Center Stage and some other smaller places and, putting in a couple hundred people. But they did 1,600 people for Hard to Kill last January. And then their pay-per-views for the rest of the year did very well. They did 1,150 for Rebellion in the same building in Vegas, down from Hard to Kill, which got the little bump from the TNA branding and all that coming back. The Slammiversary in Montreal, remember, it sold that building out. And then they had Bound for Glory in Detroit, which did the 3,000 fans, which was the biggest number they had done yet. I think that may not have topped Montreal. I don't remember. But at any rate, Genesis now with over 4,000. And, Mike Johnson was saying how they were on pace to have their biggest attendance and biggest gate in, around a decade or something like that. And it looks like that was in fact the case when they ran this Curtis Colwell Center, which New Japan has run, which AEW has run, and it looked good on the pay-per-view with all the seats that at least were offered that were filled. There were no visible empty seats or anything like that. So a good show from a business standpoint, no doubt about it. I guess we'll find out about pay-per-view. Well, it was on Triller, right? It wasn't on pay-per-view.
Yeah, it was Triller.
So who knows with that? But maybe we'll get some pay-per-view numbers or something. But yeah, business still looking to be on the upswing with TNA coming off what was a very good year for them. We've talked about it on shows recently. The Hardys are probably helping out. Whatever credit you want to give to the WWE partnership, that's probably helping out. The fact that they're getting people like Joe Hendry and Jordan Grace over on WWE TV to make them feel like bigger stars, that might have an effect. And it was Joe Hendry in the main event of this, winning the world title, which even in an era where world champions are kind of, the standard is lower, and it has been for how many years now? 20 years, you want to say, or you want a little less? How long has the standard been lower for world champions in pro wrestling? 15 years?
Maybe 15.
20 years?
Yeah, 15 or 20, I think is fair.
Even by those standards, he's like one of the worst. I mean, let's be honest.
He's really bad. He's not good at wrestling.
He's not
at all.
good. I mean, he's a below average wrestler. Now, obviously, he's over to their fan base. So from that standpoint, not everybody has to be Lou Thez bell to bell. So he beats Nick Nemeth for the title. Nemeth couldn't do much with him. I mean,
no, I was going to say Nemeth worked his ass off in this match. I thought he did whatever. I thought personally I was watching this match as Nemeth was bumping his ass off, doing whatever he could to make this guy look like $1 million. Hendry just doesn't have it, man. He doesn't have that extra gear. He doesn't have that working stand. Like it's also charisma too. Like he's got the charisma coming down to the ring. He's got the charisma outside the ring. But once that bell rings in that ring, he doesn't have a lot of it. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't move and he just kind of sits there, or he stands up and does the boom, boom, clap thing. And that's kind of it. That's kind of all he's got. Other than that, you know what I mean? Like he doesn't present himself as it's not even just that bell to bell work. Like when I say that I don't think he's a great worker, I don't mean necessarily like flippy doos and big spots and all that sort of stuff. That's not what I'm talking about. I mean like the coloring between the lines and having that in-ring charisma. He just doesn't have a whole lot of that.
No, he never had.
No, and that's the reason why he's this is the first time he's ever really been pushed to any sort of degree. Now, he's absolutely super over, and of course, if you're TNA, you're really happy with the fact that this guy who, a couple years ago was just doing pre-shows and was a kind of a comedy guy has moved up the ladder and is now, a top star and he could be your champion. You obviously take that, but like you said, he's a pretty low standard for an in-ring world champion, and Nemeth worked his ass off to try to make it happen, and it just I thought this match was kind of blah.
He's a meme wrestler is what he is. He's a meme wrestler 5 years later. We're past the peak of the meme wrestlers, but that's exactly what he is. So he's a world champ. WWE obviously using TNA as a prop in many ways. We talked about it last week, either from the standpoint of a nice tool to argue against for antitrust stuff, a nice stick for their fans to use to beat AEW with, as we've seen that catch on. A pipeline for talent, as Jordan Grace finished up on this show, and is almost assuredly on her way to WWE now. Joe Hendry could also be the case. I mean, this could be just TNA wanting their world champion to be in the Royal Rumble, right? That could be why they put the title on him here.
Yeah, this is like who got it last year? Was it Zachary Wentz or whatever? Remember, there was one of those guys that was going to be in some sort of WWE match, and they moved the even though it didn't make sense for the story, they moved the title over to that guy so that he could come out on a WWE show as a champion. I forget exactly what the circumstances was, but I think it was Wentz at that time, whatever. But they put the title on a guy who wasn't really, just so that he could come out and they could, promote him as, the TNA champion is here, so it's kind of what they did here.
So TNA's really leaning in and taking advantage of this relationship, the most they can. And they understand they're going to lose their talent, and any talent that WWE wants, they're going to take. And I think TNA accepts that and understands it. This has some of the super hardcore TNA fans not too pleased, all of this, for obvious reasons. We all know how it ends. It always ends the same way. Now there's even chatter that WWE might be outright looking to purchase TNA.
Now, see, I don't think that to me, that's not what the end result of this thing is going to be at all. I would be stunned if that's the result of it, because there's a couple reasons why. Why would TKO and WWE need to invest capital when they're getting everything they could possibly want out of TNA right now without spending any money? You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't need to buy the company. They can just say,
because it's accomplishing what they wanted to accomplish.
It's accomplishing everything they want already with zero capital and no antitrust, not even tempting the idea of an antitrust lawsuit of them buying one of their competitors.
Can't they, counterpoint, if they buy it and pump more money into it and dress it up, can't they sell it to television networks to continue to hurt AEW?
I think they could still do that even without owning them.
You cannot put this product on TV.
I think they can try to get. I think that they. So now what Dave said. Dave Meltzer talked about that, about them possibly buying it.
It doesn't look major league, Rich.
It does not. But I do wonder if you can simply, by helping them with a little bit of production here and there, a little bit of money here and there, production wise, giving them a little bit more talent, and helping them get into the meetings and getting into these conversations with these TV stations that you used to have relationships with. I think that is, and that's something I whiffed on last week that I didn't even think about, is all those voided international television deals that WWE left. Everybody just kind of assumed that AEW was going to waltz in every single one of them and say, oh, well, you don't have WWE anymore. Here, we have, professional wrestling here that, we're not doing ratings like they are, but we're pretty damn close, so you can pay us relatively similar to what you paid them. I didn't think of the fact that maybe with the connection of WWE, they can say, hey, look, we're on Netflix, but we got these other guys and we have a good relationship with them. How about you put them on there? I think you can do that without necessarily buying outright TNA.
Which is sort of what happened with the Canadian TV deal, right?
Right. Exactly.
Where we
already saw it happen. We already saw it happen one time.
They got the ex-WWE slot when a lot of people thought it was a given that AEW was going to get that slot, but they didn't. TNA got it. So the idea is they can do that around the world. With all of the television slots that WWE is abandoning because they're going to Netflix, they can use TNA as a barrier to prevent entry for AEW.
Right.
So what you're saying is they could do that without having to buy it.
I don't think they have to buy it. I think they could do it right now. They could just say, hi, insert random company. We have a promotional partner right now that I think would be a good fit for your network. Here it is. It's TNA.
Yeah.
And then TNA can, has to ultimately do that deal.
They can get them in the room.
But they can get them in the room.
Right.
And help them out by sending them some talent here and there to make it look a little bit more professional or whatever.
So on this show, they did send a slightly higher count. Now, they were sending them absolute scraps. And this was day one of the press release era of the relationship. And they sent Cora Jade and Fraxium to this show, which are significantly bigger NXT stars than they were sending previously. They were sending absolute bottom of the roster before. Yeah. Now, who knows if that'll hold. The whole press release and everything was new and fresh and had people buzzing. And I think also the press release was strategic and to help TNA with the show and raise awareness around it. So it would stand the reason you'd want to send bigger stars. The question is whether that sustains or we're going right back to sending whoever the scrubs were that they were sending them before. But we'll see.
We're starting off this relationship like every WWE relationship starts out, where it's all hot and heavy and good, and we're saying, and now we'll see. This is a brand new era, new company, new leadership, a lot of ways. But I mean, this leadership kind of was in charge of the NXT UK thing, and that all started off great and happy and perfect, and then very quickly thereafter wasn't so happy and so perfect. And, you can work whatever company you want. We just have to know, turned into, well, not that company. Not those guys. No, not that. And then eventually people just stopped booking all the guys because they kept getting denied or pulled off a show at last minute or whatever. So right now we're in the honeymoon period, which is where every WWE relationship starts, but we kind of know where it's going to go. But with this one, I don't know. This one's a little different than a lot of the other ones because there's a clear benefit to keeping TNA alive. And it's not necessarily they want a competitor in the marketplace because they know that TNA can never match them, but they want to see if they can make a competitor in the marketplace catch up to AEW. You're right.
If AEW doesn't exist, this partnership doesn't exist.
No,
I hope people understand that.
Are you kidding? No.
And they don't give a fuck about TNA. They care about the perception war and everything else, and so that's why all of this is happening and why this exists. As far as the show itself, the main event was a gentleman's 3. Hendry wins the title. They involved John Layfield, who continues to do this deal where he pops up in random promotions. He beat up Ryan Nemeth, right?
Hot Young Briley or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, Hot Young Briley was there with a ticket, tried to get involved. Layfield ran him off, and then Layfield just got out of there. He does this. I don't know what the end game of this is.
Who knows?
Maybe he's just having fun. He's just having fun. He's just popping up on random wrestling shows and doing his thing and getting out of there. And then, so Hendry wins the title. He celebrates in the crowd and everything. As far as the rest of the show, the big news is Tessa Blanchard comes back. She beats Jordynne Grace on the way out, and the crowd rejected her. Jordynne Grace is done. She is officially finished, as is Josh Alexander. He loses the I Quit match to Mike Santana and then quits the company in storyline on camera. And I think they're going to finish him up at the tapings officially, and what direction they're going with him quitting on camera. So he'll be gone. We'll see where he ends up. Jordynne Grace is already gone. We all know where she's ending up. The Jordynne Grace-Tessa Blanchard match, I didn't think was quite as good as the hype that I was seeing around it.
I loved it. I thought it was great.
All right, well, good. So we'll have different opinions. I thought it was a good match that wasn't anywhere close to great. I'd probably go about 3.25, 3.5, somewhere in that range. But maybe it was a victim for me of hype because I was waiting for it to get to that next gear and be like this match of the year contender people were talking about. And for me, it never got there.
Yeah, to me, I thought it was brutal and hard hitting and fast paced in all the right ways. And it reminded me that there's a lot of matches that people try to prop up as being really, really good. And this happens with women's matches a lot more than men's matches, where a women's match goes out there, and this happens in WWE a lot too, and it'll happen elsewhere too, where, there'll be this kind of middling women's match, but people have to pretend that it's great or whatever. And it makes it look bad when a match like this comes out and it's like, oh, this is fucking great. Like, this is what it's supposed to be. Because these women went out there and beat the shit out of each other, and it was brutal and just big bumps and big spots. And I don't know, man, I thought this was great. And I think the heat around Tessa is obviously very real, but she's trying to harness it into a positive way. And I think it kind of got harnessed into a positive way in this match, where it felt like the crowd decided not necessarily it's a weird sort of heat. Like, I think a lot of people in that crowd fucking hate her and want her to go away. But it also wasn't like go away heat. They kind of wanted Jordynne Grace to beat her ass. And when you do that, it's kind of like, well, I don't know. It's kind of like the old heats, the old work's the new work in a weird way. So I don't know. We'll see if that Tessa thing, I don't know how it's going to be long term with Tessa. I guess that's a big question that we're going to have and see what TNA is like. Will crowds eventually accept her? And I think that's a big reason why she's in TNA right now is WWE ultimately probably wants to sign this woman, right? Like, they probably have wanted to sign her for a while. I think TNA, like it was for Jordynne Grace over the last year, was, can you be on your best behavior for a year? And if so, then we'll bring you in. I think the Jordan thing was they knew they wanted Jordynne Grace last year, but for whatever reasons, contracts or whatever, or Jordan Grace, you sometimes got herself in the middle of things. And it was just like, hey, for a year, can you kind of log off and just not piss anybody off and let's see? And she did. And now they're ready to bring her in and push her like a top star or whatever. I kind of wonder if that's what they're doing with Tessa here and seeing if maybe you bring her into TNA, maybe let all the fans get angry, let all the fans get mad, let all the fans boo, and see if that sustains and see if they really truly hate her, or if eventually they just give up and say, you know what, whatever, she's here, fine, and just start booing her like a normal person or booing her like the heel she's supposed to be. That, I don't know. We're going to see what they end up trying to do with her. I don't know. I don't know if it's going to work. On this night, I think it worked because the crowd had a babyface that they really believed in, so they kind of cheered for Jordan and booed Tessa. And I think that kind of helped the match for me, too, because there was a lot of heat on this match, too. Again, was it all positive heat? Was it all, was it go-away heat? Maybe a little bit for Tessa, but I do think it definitely works because it made her come across like a big, giant heel that everybody wanted to see get her ass beat. And then you have Jordan Grace here as the conquering babyface that's been in TNA forever and hasn't left and didn't leave and doesn't have all these controversies like Tessa has. And I thought it kind of worked, and I thought it was real hard hitting, real fast pace. They took some crazy-ass bumps, add in that heat, and I thought this was really, really good. Now, is this a match of the year contender? No, I'm not going at match of the year contender with it, but I thought it was pretty damn great. I went like 4.25 with it, so I think this is a match that if you're going to watch this pay-per-view, you absolutely have to check out. But no, was it a match of the year contender? No, I don't think it was quite on that level. So maybe if you thought it was going to be
great,
on that level.
I mean, you thought it was great.
Yeah.
I didn't, I just thought it was good. The thing with Tessa is this. I just don't think and never thought that she's worth the trouble.
I would agree.
I just don't. I don't. She's not money to me. I mean, people think that she's like this. This thing that Tessa Blanchard is like this undeniable uber talent. I've never seen that.
I think she's good, but I don't think she's worth risking, fan backlash and all that sort of shit with.
No. It's not worth the trouble. She's never been worth the trouble. I think she's a good wrestler. That's what I think of Tessa Blanchard. I don't think she's great. I don't think she pops off the screen with overwhelming star charisma. I don't think she's any kind of lock, big-time money draw. Tessa Blanchard has been pushed in the past before she was controversial. She doesn't make any kind of difference. She is not worth the trouble to me. I don't understand why she is a constant topic of conversation. What can we do? Will fans ever accept her? Who cares? I don't understand. I wouldn't, if I were running a wrestling promotion, I wouldn't waste a single second thinking about or worrying about, should I book Tessa Blanchard? My answer would be a very simple no, and I would move on to a dozen other people who have the same upside that she has. I've never understood it. So that's where I'm at with Tessa. I don't know. I don't think she's any kind of special talent, and I don't think she ever was. So anyway, the rest of the show to me, because I don't think you saw anything else other than those two matches.
Those are the two, yeah. I unfortunately, I was watching the World versus GCW all week, so I did not get to the rest of the show. But
so very quickly, Moose versus Ace Austin opened the show for the X Division, and it was fine. It was a Moose and Ace Austin match, and it was pretty good. It wasn't anything spectacular, but it didn't underwhelm either. And Moose retained the title. Eric Young and Steve Macklin beat Brian Myers and Eddie Edwards, and I didn't think this was good at all, especially when you had a bunch of veterans in there, and I thought it was very underwhelming. Then you had the women's tag team title match with Danny Luna and Jody Threat. Ash by Elegance has a partner now, Heather by Elegance.
Yeah, the former Heather Reckless. You remember Heather Reckless? Yeah.
A little tiny girl.
Yep.
Tiny girl, Heather Reckless. They were out there in Dallas Cowboy cheerleader outfits, and the show was in Garland, Texas, but they were heels, and they were like chanting "Go Eagles" for heat. Wouldn't you wear Eagles cheerleaders?
I was going to say, why wouldn't you just wear Eagles outfits then?
Yeah, the match wasn't any good because Ash by Elegance and Heather Reckless aren't any good. So, and I'm not crazy about Danny Luna and Jody Threat either, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, not
Mike
exactly
Santana,
the Bomb Angels over on the other side.
Right, exactly. This wasn't JBA versus Glamour Girls, okay? Definitely not. Mike Santana beats Josh Alexander in the I Quit match. Talked about that a little. Really good match. Mike Santana tries really hard. He is a guy who didn't want to be in AEW anymore. He is someone who really is very much into this TNA run, and it shows. And I guess we'll see the fallout with these tapings with Alexander and all of that. The Hardys versus the Rascals. This was for the men's tag team titles, and the Hardys just don't have it anymore. We knew that in the AEW run.
Oh, yeah. We knew that before the AEW run, to be honest. But
they really don't have it anymore now, though. And it's beneficial to have them around for obvious reasons. The thing about the Hardys is
Matt walks out with his little bow legs and stuff. People
the thing
like
about
them.
the Hardys is they help small promotions draw, and they mean nothing in larger promotions. That's really all. That's it. That's the Hardys in 2025. If they're in TNA, I'm sure they're helping sell some tickets. When they were with, did those matches against the Bucks, however many years ago, all over the Indies, ROH and everything, they were selling tickets. You put the Hardys in WWE, you put them in AEW, they don't mean a thing. And that's their place now in the ecosystem. They don't mean a thing in a larger promotion. They can help a smaller promotion draw, and they can mean something to a smaller promotion. Masha Slamovich versus Rosemary in the Clockwork Orange match. You've seen this gimmick a million times, Abyss and everything else. Raven, go back in TNA history. You have the 1/4 of a cage with all the weapons attached to it and all the utter nonsense. And it has a Rosemary match, and there were some car crash spots and whatnot, but really didn't do a ton for me. Masha Slamovich wins the match. Rosemary pulled the old nail bat that Abyss used to use. He calls it Mary or Martha or Kristen or whatever the fuck whatever name that fucking bat has. And they reference that and Bertha, whatever it is. And so they did a little callback to Abyss, and Masha Slamovich retains the women's title. Overall, to me, because I wasn't super high on the Tessa Blanchard Jordan Grace match like everybody else, I thought it was very typical of a modern era TNA show. Perfectly competent wrestling with a couple of down spots. Nothing peaked super high for me, and I felt nothing watching it. I can't get into TNA. It's just just a dry promotion where there's nothing wrong, and this is not one of TNA's bad eras.
No, not at all. It's just and that's kind of why I stopped watching it last year, is because we kept watching them for these shows, and I would get done and I'd be like, I have no thought. I just spent 3 hours watching the show and I got nothing. I don't know what to tell you.
You watch 3 hours of perfectly competent wrestling. But I would say that more people share Rich's opinion on Tessa versus Jordan Grace. So if you're someone who likes to watch great matches, you should go watch it, because I know why people thought are more in line with Rich. It just didn't necessarily end for me. Yeah, but you have to remember too, I've never been a Tessa guy, ever. So that might be it too, because there probably isn't a single Tessa Blanchard match ever that I have ever thought was as good as everybody else has. So, maybe that one match against Sami Callihan, but not the one I saw live. The other one. Do you know what I'm talking about? Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah. Are you talking about the one she won the title at, or were you at the one where she won the title?
No, that's the one I was at, and I didn't think that was anything special. It was okay. Let me see if she had another one against Sammy that I think we both raved about it. And it's entirely possible I'm misremembering. Should be easy. Singles match, Sami Callihan.
So there's Hard to Kill at the Bomb Factory. Were you at that one? There's two. There's two that happened in Texas. Unfortunately, they both happened in Texas. So I don't know. Did you go to Slammiversary or Hard to Kill?
No. I was at Hard to Kill at the Bomb Factory.
Okay, so there's a one at Slammiversary, and that one is on Cage Match. It's an 8.46.
That's the one.
Wrestling Observer Newsletter, 4.25 stars.
That's
main
the
event.
one.
Yeah, that's probably the one. That was not for the title.
That's the one from 2019.
2019,
and I'm almost positive, if people go back and find our show, and these sickos will, that we praised that one big time. I think it was the main event of the show. There was a Michael Elgin match on that show that was really good. Brian Cage defeats Michael Elgin. We really like that too, from what I recall.
I'm looking at this card. This looks like a fun card. This is a pretty good looking card.
I think I'm almost positive that we thought the Sammy Tessa match that night was really good. I was at the Hard to Kill match, and my takeaway from that was watching it live, that Tessa just wasn't laying it in as much as Sammy was, and it hurt the match. And those are the kind of things that aren't always visible on tape.
Yeah.
But her work came across to me really soft that night, and it bothered me. And I didn't love the match. And I thought their match the year before, at least as memory serves, was much better. Yeah, because that's the one where they did the little post-match press conferences like New Japan does.
Yeah.
And I came back with that footage that we put behind the paywall, which is probably still there. No reason it wouldn't be. But very early Patreon content. But yeah, anyway, that was Genesis. And I'm going to keep an eye on these tapings because I think they're going to be newsworthy.
Yeah, there's already a bunch of stuff. So Warner showed up. They had a live show. So a bunch of stuff already happened on the live show. Mustafa Ali has officially signed with the promotion. I guess he
finally gave up the goat.
I think he kept saying, all right, is anybody going to sign me or no? All right, fine.
Well, he went to that AEW pay-per-view in Chicago.
Yeah.
Remember? And he was hanging around outside. I mean, look, if AEW would have ever been interested in him, he would have been signed by now.
For sure.
So he made the right move if he finally signed with TNA.
And then looks like nothing else. Oh, God damn it. JBL showed up again. Stopping Matt Cardona from using the title against Joe Hendry. Okay.
Do you think guys like Top Dollar and Mustafa Ali see this relationship as a way back in?
Yes.
I do too. I think that may be part of their thought processes.
I think there's now a benefit if ultimately you want to go back there.
Which, again, works in TNA's favor in terms of securing talent.
Mm-hmm.
So TNA really can leverage this relationship as long as they're willing to accept the downsides of it. If you make a star, you're losing them. But, as I talked about with Mike Gilbert behind the paywall on Flagship Plus, wouldn't that be the case anyway?
Right.
So it's like...
And I think that's the gambit that WWE could say is like, hey, look, we're going to steal your people anyway.
Right.
Why don't you guys get something out of it before we steal your talent?
Right. So Anthem will leverage this the best they can, but we keep an eye on it. You know, same thing with Noah. Keep a real close eye on it. And because, you know, WWE, TKO. Look, UFC has a history both on their own and under TKO of buying out other MMA companies. I don't think you could totally write it off. I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you. But TKO has operated in that manner before. So,
I think they would buy them if they needed to remove a competitor from the marketplace. But I think it behooves them to have this competitor in the marketplace.
And there's no reason to buy them, like you said, because they get all the benefits of it anyway. And it probably doesn't make any money.
No.
So what the fuck you know what I mean? So it's like
you're spending money to buy a thing that doesn't make money when you can get all the benefits right now without spending a dime.
Unless they think they can buy it and then with their muscle get it on TV and have it to where it makes money and all those things.
Right.
But then you're opening up yourself for the antitrust stuff again, which obviously the MLW lawsuit was a big L for them from that standpoint. So I just, you know who I feel bad for are the dyed-in-the-wool TNA fans.
Yeah.
Because now their company is just being used as a prop, and all of the discourse around their company revolves around what they can do for WWE. And being used as a beating stick for AEW. They don't want their fans didn't ask for this shit. Their fans just want to enjoy their company.
Right.
They don't want to constantly be compared to AEW. They don't want to, at least they obviously, if they're psycho secta fans, they don't want to be used as a pawn. They don't want to be a pipeline for WWE talent. And there's probably a segment of TNA fans who don't want these NXT people coming in. They don't give a shit about Cora Jade. You know, so that's what I feel bad for.
All right, move on. Hey, we're just about out of time here. So real quickly, Strong Hearts are disbanding. We don't have a whole lot to say about that. The unit led by Shima, they're done. They had a photo on Instagram of Shima, El Lindemann, T-Hawk, Saiki Yoshioka, and Shigeru Irii announcing the end of Strong Hearts. So they originally
speculation is Shima retiring?
Yeah, right. Is he possibly looking down the barrel and saying, shit, we're about done here. So I don't know. Yeah, it's strange. Like so originally they were formed obviously to join the OWE. Remember the OWE, Joe? That was the thing, but did not happen. Obviously, did not take off the way many people assumed it would. And they've kind of been all over the place. I think they formed in 2018. Have kind of been all over the place, but yeah, I never knew why these people all stuck together for so long. Like I don't know why El Lindemann was sticking with Shima into like 2023. You know what I mean? Why T-Hawk was sticking with this guy. I don't think there was any. So like the fact that they broke up, I'm like, oh yeah, it feels like we're 4 years overdue on Strong Hearts disbanding. But okay, cool. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe Shima's retiring. I don't know if these guys are doing their own thing, if they're hanging around GLEAT for a longer time. Yoshioka will just keep doing All Japan Pro Wrestling. Irii will just continue doing all the shit that he does. And I don't know. Lindemann and T-Hawk fuck around in GLEAT for a little bit longer, I suppose. I don't know. And then Shima retires. Yeah. I don't know.
Maybe Lindemann finally got a firm offer from New Japan and it's like, hey, look, man, I got to make some money.
Yeah.
I can't be fucking around and
this is going nowhere.
You're leading me down a path of nothing. It could be a combination of things, or it could be just they all feel it's stale. I don't know. But it's something to keep an eye on. Hey, maybe Case Lowe, with all of his leaning on Tony Khan, convinced him to bring Shima back.
There it is.
Who knows?
I'm down. Why not?
How's that angle?
There's a lot worse stuff on Dynamite every single week, so I am fine with Shima showing up.
I have to be honest. I haven't watched Shima work in a long time, and I have no idea if he's any good anymore. Because GLEAT doesn't exist to me. So
unfortunately, it exists to me more than it should, and not anymore. Now that they're on a paywall, I don't. Because actually, full disclosure, like most flagships we do, I click on over. I got this little Fire TV next to me. And I'll find something. Yeah, I'll watch something. Like right now, I'm watching Prestige, their Roseland, 10 show. But a lot of times when GLEAT was available, I was like, "Fuck, I'll watch GLEAT." Volume 72 or whatever. What the fuck is this? Yeah. Why is this show happening? Like it's this weird building. There's not that many people there. All these guys are on this show, and I'm like, "What is happening?" There's like a UWF match in the middle of this. I'd say leave the memories alone on Shima. Looking kind of not great these days. That might be why he's staring it down and saying, "You know what? Maybe it's over."
Yeah, he might be packing it in.
Yeah, the body's starting to finally go for him.
Maybe he should. Case will probably hear this. Do you think if he asked nicely, Dragon Gate would give him a little retirement gimmick?
I would hope, but probably not.
He asked if he said please,
pretty please, yeah. They should. I mean, honestly, they probably should.
Honestly, they should.
They should all say, you know what? Whatever happened. We can all stand to make more money if we just bring you in and say, here's 3 months now. They did it with Ultimo, for God's sakes. You know what I mean? Like, they brought Ultimo in and said, let's just make some money on this retirement or whatever. I guess he's still fucking hanging around, so not retirement, but we'll make some money on you, the nostalgia of you returning. But I think, they should. I know they probably won't, but they should. They should sit down and say, you know what? We don't have to be best friends.
Have worked in wrestling recently.
Yeah, they have.
Muto, Sting. I feel like if he wants to retire and he comes to them and says, hey, let's do this over the course of the year and we'll wrap it up at Final Gate and I'll be nice and we'll play nice. And look, I make the last real money of my life and it's going to pop houses. Why would you not agree with that?
They should. They really should. Because there's no downside. Because then the guy's just gone. Then he just leaves and he's gone. And he's retired. Then you just say, okay.
Yeah, there's no downside. Just, from a business standpoint, you have to hear it out. Now, I don't know that he wants that. I don't know if he wants it.
I'm sure there's guys on the roster that don't want it. I'm sure there's guys in the leadership that don't want it. But it's a fucking money business, man. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's better to just say, you know what? Swallow your fucking pride and let's make some money for a couple months. And that'd make money. There's no doubt about it, right? Shima back in Dragon Gate, the last run.
Shima back in Dragon Gate, and the last time
money.
you're going to see him in all these cities. Yes, it would
That's
make
money.
Vampiro is making money for AAA doing this.
He's on a 2-year retirement tour, and which shows no sign of ending anytime soon. By the way, this definitely might be the last time you'll ever see Vampiro here in Monterey. So buy your tickets for. He's back. Well, maybe this time's the end. We don't know, but probably buy your tickets one more time to see Vampiro for the last time. Yeah, if Vampiro's drawing all over Mexico, then Shima can draw a couple houses.
Well, because it isn't going to make any money for Glee.
Fuck no.
I don't think people won't care as much. It's got to be there. It's got to be in Dragon Gate. So, yeah, there's a lot of people in Dragon Gate who don't even know who he is. Some of this talent that's come through since he's been gone.
Yeah.
You would think that they can keep him away from the people who he can't get along with and who don't want anything to do with him, and find a way to make it work. It seems like something where people should sit down and try to figure it out. If he's even retiring, who knows?
Right. He's also Shima, so who the fuck knows?
Right. Anything's possible with him.
Yeah, anything is possible. With our man Shima. Dragon Gate, speaking of Dragon Gate, they are coming to WrestleMania Weekend this year as well. They have announced that they are going to be on, we have the whole show, a whole schedule, I should say, at voiceswrestling.com. If you want to check that out, they are doing so they've announced one show so far, but there appears to be rumblings that they're probably going to have another show right now, but they do have one so far announced Friday, April 18th. Them and Pro Wrestling Revolution are running at Meet Las Vegas, which is actually and that's something I actually wanted to bring up because you had a discussion with Justin Bissonette on Flagship Plus, which is a great episode, by the way. It's half of it's with Ibu talking WWE, and the other half was with Big Biss, Justin Bissonette, talking the American indie scene. And
Ibu, whatever happened there.
Yeah. Log off, man. We all got to log off sometime. It's best for all of us to log off at some point. But anyway, good discussion there with those guys. But you had talked about WrestleMania Weekend and kind of said, WrestleMania Weekend, everything's kind of filtering through the Collective these days, obviously with the Hitchcock moving over to the Collective. And I got to say, I think this year's WrestleMania Weekend is shaping up to be, for the first time in a very long time, a pretty damn good WrestleMania Weekend. Like I'm not ready to say we're back. But I think the stuff going on with, and you reported this first before anybody else on our Patreon, the Deadlock West Coast Pro Prestige running at the Meet Las Vegas, Dragon Gate's a part of that. And I've heard there's more stuff involved with that as well. So if they start amping that up a little bit, you start adding some real professional operations here. West Coast Pro, a professional operation. Prestige, a pretty professional operation. Deadlock, I love what I see with Deadlock. And now you add in Dragon Gate. Like, that's a real contender. Like, we've had these other shows where there's been other shows that have run and other collectives and groups of things that have run or whatever. But they've all kind of been shitty or they've all been low rent or whatever. And it's like, yeah, well, GCW still runs this fucking weekend. I think there's a case to be made that if a few more things jump on board with that at Meet Las Vegas with West Coast Prestige and Deadlock, there's a real chance that they can take back this weekend from GCW. And I hope they do. Because the GCW lineup is it's got the WrestleCon show now, but otherwise it's the same shit you get every single year. Progress, Tokyo Joshi Pro, Bloodsport, Janela Spring Break, Clusterfuck, Effie's Big Gay Brunch. You know what I mean? It's the same shit. Tokyo Joshi Pro versus GCW versus DDT. Okay, great. Same shit every single year. DDT coming back again. I think adding a new mix, and there's like this is FSW arena thing that's going on. We'll obviously give more to WrestleMania Weekend as we get a little bit closer. There's this other group collection thing going on, but that's like, I don't know, man. There's weird stuff going on in that. That's going to be trashy and local. A lot of local Devotion Championship Wrestling, Demand Lucha, Winner's Circle Pro Wrestling. These things are kind of local or whatever. But I keep your eye on whatever's going on in that one collective of the West Coast Prestige and Deadlock. That could get real good. And I do hope and I do pray that more stuff gets announced with those guys, because I think that adds, finally, once and for all, some real professionalism to this weekend, which has been sorely lacking for a long time.
Yeah, the GCW venue has never been my favorite. I have zero interest in Tokyo Joshi Pro. I won't even turn it on. Bloodsport is fine. You know, I'll watch it once a year when it's at WrestleMania Weekend. Progress, I have no interest in.
Yeah, no, thank you.
None whatsoever. The For the Culture, the Billy Dixon era of that has really hurt the brand. I mean, the For the Culture shows.
Well, he's done now. I don't know if you noticed, but it's Heels Have Eyes is now running the For the Culture, and that's like the West Side Gun. I know you're a big Griselda guy, so I don't have to explain West Side Gun to you too much, but that's his thing. I don't know if he's actually like. I don't know if he books it or whatever, or if he's just kind of the money man behind it, but it looks like they're taking over for the Culture. So now that might reinvigorate For the Culture a little bit. That was going
to be my point, that Dixon's out, which is good, because that brand really needed to be revived. The Billy Dixon shows, I think they did a lot of damage to the reputation of those shows. They were bad shows.
They were bad. Yeah.
They just weren't good shows. So, and obviously the GCW stuff, now I've been over spring break for a number of years now. It's hard to get excited about that. So it's that, that venue, they'll have the Mark Hitchcock show, and, I'll always check that out. But yeah, the problem is this West Coast Pro, like those sets of shows. Yeah. Those are promotions that we would be more interested in watching. The problem is, I think this is a Vegas specific thing because that's where they're based. I don't anticipate them going to New Orleans or any of these other places, but who knows? I mean, if they're
successful. It's got to be successful.
Right. If they're wildly successful, they'll do it again. I mean, that's the bottom line. So, but yeah, I agree. Those shows clearly are more up our alley with what we want to see. I mean, everyone just heard our review of the Hammerstein show. Okay. So, so, we'll see. At least it's something. If it was just going to be the Collective, that'd be a rough go. It'd be a rough go if that's all we were.
The Collective, and then whatever's going on at this other arena, which is just going to be kind of junky local wrestling or whatever.
Lower level.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Including the Topless Dancers, Bottomless Tequila show with all the canceled wrestlers. And
I'm definitely checking that one.
Oh, for Sin City Burn, man!
My God, if that's streamed. Yeah. With all the canceled guys, I mean, that's going to be a fucking train wreck.
That's going to be, fantastic.
That the man's watching.
There's a non-zero chance that I'm in Las Vegas for this Mania weekend. I don't know.
Oh!
I'm thinking about it because the nurse will sign off on that because she likes to go to Vegas to climb. So I think there's a way that we could get there. The flights are kind of cheap, so I don't know. We'll see. And let me tell you, Joe, if I'm in town, I'm going to that fucking show. Are you kidding me?
No, you have to.
Topless Dancers, Bottomless Tequila, and every canceled wrestler in the world? Come on. Are you kidding me?
You got it. Yeah, you got to do it.
I got to bring the nurse too and be like, yeah. So that guy. So his thing.
Here's what he did.
Right.
Here's what he's alleged of.
Right.
Yeah.
While we're drinking bottomless tequilas served to us by Topless Dancers, like that. What a day. What a night. And that's at 11 p.m. Like that's perfect, man. That is living there.
Little past your bedtime.
I'll make do.
Little past your
I'll need a little nappy or a little coffee, but I'll make do.
Yeah.
But that demands, like you're right, that demands watching and it demands going to. That show has to be covered. I don't know. I forget if that one's supposed to be streaming or not, but we'll get more details about that, obviously, as we get a little closer. But yeah, just the idea of being like, all right, so yeah, with that dude, so his deal was.
Yeah. Breaking it all down. All the allegations.
Yes.
All the allegations. But
then also Elijah Burke, AJ Francis, and Kenny King. You know what I mean? It's just like,
yeah.
It's so good. And Lindsay Dorado. It's so good. Oh, God. Anyway, that is WrestleMania weekend. So just want to quickly check in on that. Just basically say keep an eye on that stuff going on in Meet Las Vegas. I think there's a lot of good stuff potentially going on there. And Biss sort of, I forget if he answered it. Did he say New Texas is going to get involved in Mania weekend in some way?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I'd like to hear more.
I don't know anything else.
Yeah, I would like to know more.
I can't answer that.
No, and he shouldn't reveal that yet until everything's ready to go. But I like that. When I heard that, I perked up a little bit. I said, okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. And there's also a Pandemonium Pro Wrestling is running on Thursday. They look like they have a pretty good thing going on that night. So I think there's hope for this weekend. A lot of times we go into these WrestleMania weekends and I'm like, motherfucker, look at this shit. And it's just a bunch of garbage. Like that one year where it was the Collective and then Circle 6 and that was about it. That's all we had. that year, I mean, that was garbage. Just a fucking pile of garbage that entire year. I think we got some professional operations running Mania Weekend again, so that should hopefully change the game. But we'll see. Obviously, we get a little closer to that. But all right, we are completely out of time here on the flagship. Joe, anything else before we get out of here?
I got nothing.
We are done. All right. FlagshipPatreon.com. Make sure you're subscribing there to get all of our bonus content. And there is a lot out there for you right now. There is the Flagship Plus that I just mentioned with Justin Bissonnette and Ibu talking about U.S. Indies and WWE. Great episode, rave reviews for that one so far. There is a Thursday Dynamite review where, Joe, the title is I Feel Nothing, where I'll let you guys figure out what's going on there. Thursday Dynamite review, I Feel Nothing from Joe. You have Rumble Rewind. I finished up my Royal Rumble retrospective series on the Patreon with the Royal Rumble 1993, but every single Royal Rumble from 1988 to 2016 is available on the Patreon now. Have done all of that. Also, Tour of the Territories, rave reviews for Tour of the Territories so far. That is my weekly journey through American Wrestling Territories in 1983. We are 3 weeks in. We have covered Mid-South. We've covered Memphis. We've covered Southwest Wrestling. We're going all over the place in the Tour of the Territories. But that has gotten rave reviews so far. A lot of good feedback on that. That is all available on the $5 tier at flagshippatreon.com. So, yeah, get on there, subscribe. Also, voicewrestling.com/Discord if you want to join the Discord. And, yeah, that is it for us. So that is Joe. I'm Rich. We'll talk to you guys next time. Take care. Bye.
Hello, Voices of Wrestling listener. Dave Ryan here. Have you ever wondered to yourself how many hidden gems are hidden away inside the last years of World Championship Wrestling? Have you ever asked yourself how many tenuous gags can be made about the name Mike Enos? And have you ever thought about what it sounds like for two Irishmen to interpret a very chaotic company through its B-show? The answers to all this and more are just a click away. Check out Days of Thunder every second Thursday on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network.